which will indicate how much time is remaining. A bell will sound when you have 30 seconds remaining. When your time is ended, the bell will sound again, and you should complete your comments. Before your comments, please state your name and city of residence. Thank you.
Welcome to your Fort Worth City Council meeting. Tonight is Tuesday, August 9th. I'll gavel us in. Meeting is called to order. Turn it back over to Jeanette.
Today's invocation will be by Dr. Marty Williams from the Bethesda Community Church. Dr. Williams? Dr. Williams? Dr. Williams?
Check your connection.
Pastor Nettles is about to pray. You ready? Okay. We may have to, if this doesn't work.
Dr. Williams, can you hear us now?
No, Dr. Williams, we'll let him come maybe next Tuesday since we're having issues. I'm going to turn to Pastor Nettles, a.k.a. Councilmember Nettles, to pray for us if you don't mind. Thank you, Councilmember.
Thank you. Let's bow our heads. Most gracious and eternal God, we want to first say thank you. Thank you for life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Now, God, we ask you to be with us in this city council meeting. Bless our leaders, our mayor and council, our city staff, that we can do this city some service tonight. Bless all our residents that are here tonight to handle business, and bless us all, and God bless America. In Jesus' name we pray, amen.
Please remain standing for Pledge of Allegiance.
So thank you all for coming tonight. We're going to do something a little bit different, and I do want feedback. So sometimes if you come to council, whether it's regular business for you to be here or if you're a resident that's new, it can be kind of confusing to follow along in the agenda. We're working on a few things here at council to make it a little easier and user-friendly for those of you in the audience. But in the meantime, we're going to do a few things like this. So you can see this is the order of business for this evening. We've also pulled a few M&C items off the consent agenda to allow speakers to give us feedback. And so that's the list that you see in front of you. We've also tried to give you a little feedback on which page of the agenda these will all be on if you're following along. Just trying to make it a little easier for those of you that are visiting with us tonight. So again, please give us feedback and let us know if this might have been easier as we kind of decide if we're going to move a different agenda system in the future. Jeanette, I'll turn it back over to you. Thank you.
Thank you. And so everyone can make sure they can see the slide. The order will be special presentations and introductions, announcements by the city manager on pulled or withdrawn items from the consent agenda, approval of the consent agenda, then the items pulled from the consent agenda, then council items including presentations and boards and commissions, resolutions, public hearings, zoning cases, and then finally the reports from the city manager. The first item is going to be special presentations and introductions, and the first is the Main Street Pilot Program.
Thank you. And we've got several special guests here this evening. Please come on up to the microphone. You can introduce our guests. Thank you to city staff for getting us to this place. We're really, really excited about what this Main Street Pilot looks like, and our partners will be working with us. Please, thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you, Mayor Carter and council and fellow council people for allowing me to be here today. My name is Deanne Bowe, and I am the Vice President of Urban Development with Main Street America. We're based in Chicago, Illinois. We're really happy to be here to announce this partnership with the city of Fort Worth, as this is the very first city in Texas to provide this level of financial support and technical assistance to support programs in developing revitalization in their commercial corridors. We're known for our 4 points, which are organization, economic vitality, design, and promotion. And that's our signature approach to commercial corridor revitalization. Since our inception in 1980, and we've collected statistics over the past 40 or so years, we have seen $95 billion of public and private investment invested in over the 2,000 Main Street communities that we're working with, over 46, which includes 46 states, cities, and counties across the US. We've been able to assist over 700,000 buildings become rehabbed, over 160,000 new businesses, and over 150,000 new jobs that have been created in Main Streets that have utilized our approach. I'm going to turn it over to Director Stern, who is our partner working to develop this program.
Thank you, Deanna. And just want to let you all know, we're very excited to announce the 2 organizations that will be moving forward with us on the Main Street program. But before we do that, I really have to ask Martha Collins on my staff to stand up. Martha Collins really oversaw this initiative with us with Dion and did an outstanding job. Thank you. So as y'all know, this program wouldn't be possible without an allocation that the Local Development Corporation set aside last year for the Main Street program, $650,000 to do a 3-year pilot program. And as Dion said, this is really a tentpole initiative around our broader full-strength Fort Worth revitalization strategy focused on the 4-point approach of revitalization that Main Street has in mind. The selected organizations will receive a total of $270,000 each in grants for operations and project implementation, as well as ongoing training from Main Street America to produce a customized transformation strategy for their corridors, complete with actionable goals to spark economic growth. Now, we had a total of 5 really strong applications for this program, and I wish we had funding to support all of them, so maybe a future budget discussion, we can talk about continuing additional funding for the Main Street program. But without further ado, I'd like to introduce the 2 organizations. If you look to my right, you might have a sense of who one of the organizations is by the amount of red that they have on. But focused on the near Northside, sorry. The Fort Worth Hispanic Chamber of Commerce will focus on historic preservation of buildings and community, specifically along the area between the Stockyards and Panther Island. Their program also envisions the establishment of an Hispanic small business hub within the district to foster and grow entrepreneurship opportunities. So Annette Landeros, President and CEO of the Hispanic Chamber, please come up. And our second community organization, which is a little more incognito over there on my right, focused on the Polytechnic area, Southeast Fort Worth, Inc., in partnership with Texas Wesleyan University, will launch a more focused, place-based economic development organization with an eye toward historic preservation of buildings and also growing a small business hub to accelerate economic development efforts within the district. In addition, they have also raised an additional $75,000 already to support their programming. And so that is a great start to the Main Street Initiative. So Stacey Marshall, President and CEO. And Mayor, I believe we're going to have you come down and take some pictures.
I think the whole council wants to come down, if that would be okay. Okay, great. Here we come.
Especially the LDC president.
Yes, thank you. A special thank you. Thank you.
So my shoes. What?
Oh, her? Okay. Yeah.
I don't want to block.
No, you're good.
Let's get rid of all of this. Thank you, ma'am. There you go.
Am I blocking? I'm tall.
I'm blocking it.
Where are we looking at first?
And I bumped you with my bun. I know, I'm bumping you with my bun. Thank you so much. I'm LDC president, I told her if I would get down here, so they don't.
Thank you so much. All right.
Thank y'all for coming tonight. It's very exciting, and special thanks to President Slaybach for being here as well from Texas Wesleyan. I know they're a huge partner in the Polytechnic area. We'll let them get out of here. And then I don't think it's on our agenda, but we have 2 awesome Boy Scouts over here in the audience, and I think Councilmember Flores wants to give them a little congratulations.
All right. I see uniforms in the audience, so surely I can't be the only one standing up here. Front and center. All right, I think we have Matthew and Caden. Which is which? I'm Matthew. Okay, good to meet you, young men. Well, it's my honor to recognize you here in front of council. So say hi to the council and the mayor.
Hi, guys.
Right. It's really our pleasure when we do have, scouts like yourselves that want to aspire and go to that next level. So is this for the earning of a badge? Yes. Really, what badge would that be, or badges?
Communication merit badge.
Okay, that's a communication merit badge for both of you?
Yes.
Okay, wonderful. Okay, how long have you been scouts?
3 years. Yeah.
3 years. Well, that's wonderful. It's a great undertaking, so appreciate your involvement. Okay, would you like to say anything to the mayor and council? Probably not. Now's your chance. Okay, well, tell me who your den leader is.
We have troop leaders and other leaders.
Okay, troop leader. So who would that be? Oops. If you don't know it, don't sweat it. Don't worry about it. Point is here that we want to recognize you, for your achievement. And to do that, we're going to give you an official symbol, the city of Fort Worth. That what we wear here, you know what this is? You do. Okay, it's called the Molly pin, right? All right, so it's my, honor and privilege as council member to officially give you the Molly pin. All right, you can wear it on your uniforms, wear it with pride, and represent the city. Okay, and there's yours, young man. So, thank you very much. Good. Okay. I think we're going to take a quick picture here, all right, guys? Let's get in line, all right? One on each side. How's that? Okay, split y'all up. Okay, how's that? All right. Congratulations. Thank y'all for coming.
She wants to do the signature.
One moment, please. We're going to do a sound check with one of our vendors. Chris, can you hear me? Chris? Okay. Next item is items to be withdrawn from the consent agenda.
There we go. All right, we have a number of items to withdraw from the consent agenda. Those would be M&C 22-0563, 22-0568, 22-0583, 22-0562, 22-0575, 22-0579, 22-0590, and 22-0595.
Items to be continued or withdrawn by staff.
There are no items to be continued or withdrawn by staff.
Consideration of the consent agenda as amended.
Please vote.
Next item is MMC 220568.
Is this the 0563? I think it's MNC 22-0563, just confirming. Yes, okay. We have one speaker on this item, Thomas Trolancasi.
Mayor and council members, fellow citizens and neighbors. On this specific agenda item, I was asked by the National Police Accountability Project to clarify whether this claim is an accident or an incident that is a police officer involved. I know in the past the council has expressed that all of these claims are accidents. The clarity is in that if the officer followed department policy and procedure, or whether this was an avoidable accident.
155, Fort Worth, 8/9 to 6 p.m. Central Time as a speaker.
I don't know what that.
You're okay. You've got more time. I've kind of paused it at 2:15 if you want to keep going there.
No, that was the question.
Okay, thank you.
Somebody can clarify that.
Any other discussion, council? Thank you. Get a motion and a second, council? Got a motion? Can I second? Thank you. Any other discussion? Please vote.
Okay, motion passed. Quick sound check with our vendor. Chris, can you hear us?
Sound check, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes, thank you. Next item is MNC 220568.
Thank you. I'm going to turn to Councilmember Michael Crane for an acceptance of a donation. It's very special. I know we have a special guest in the audience tonight.
Got a few, Mayor. Thanks. I wanted to pull this off, especially to recognize some great folks in Como. If you don't know Lake Como, Texas, nothing gets done without these three people here that are here tonight: Carol Kirby Brown, Dorothy DeBose, and Leon Reed. They work tirelessly, and I know Carol Kirby Brown, you worked tirelessly with Como Lions Heart for a long, long time. And I know you have an event coming up. I'd like you to come talk a little bit about the event and all the great work that you're doing for all the youth there in Lake Como. Sorry to make you get down. I saw you put your lipstick on, though, so it looks great.
Good evening, everyone. I want to thank our city councilman because I wasn't even planning to come. But just to let you know, we formed this organization back in 2015 to support the programs of the Como Community Center. Because for you that don't know my history, I ran that center for 30 plus years. And I kind of knew what it took to keep it going. Not to knock the city, but you just never gave us enough money to do what we needed to do. So we had to go out and get our own. So we formed a nonprofit, and we have been working to keep the programs going that need that extra funding. And so this $15,000 that we gave was for summer day camp, because a lot of our parents just can't afford the day camp fee plus the field trip fees. So we didn't want any kids to miss out on field trips. So we paid for that and the transportation. This Thursday, we will be having a Taste of Soul. It is our yearly fundraiser that we do. And we have a dinner dance. This year it's going to be at Originally Theater on Camp Bowie. The old theater is now events venue. We'll be having it there. The plates and everything are $200 for an individual or $1,500 for a table. It's not too late to come and join us. Legacy 4 will be our band there. They're great if you haven't heard them. But all this is so that we can continue. Last Friday, we had our college luncheon, and what that is we sent 30 youth from the Como community off to college with full dorm, school supplies, snacks, and everything. Our kids don't have as much as other kids. They go on grants or loans, so we give them that little boost. We take care of everything they need for their college, including a computer if they need that. We do all kinds of programs, everything you can imagine. So we just thank you for allowing us this time to tell you a little about it.
Carol, thanks for all the work that you do there. I think you have Ainsley's very excited to go to the NRH2O tomorrow with the field trip. So thanks for sponsoring that as part of the day camp, summer camp, so people have opportunities. And we'll see you on Thursday. Appreciate y'all being here tonight. Thank you.
Thank you all. Michael, you want a motion for us? Got a motion? Gonna get second, council. Thank you. Any other discussion? Please vote. And motion carries. Thank you. Thank y'all for being here. We appreciate it.
Next item is MNC 220583.
We have a few speakers on this item. The first is Adrian Smith, followed by Thomas Sterling Cossey.
Greetings to the, Adrian Smith, Fort Worth resident, District 3 is my district, former city council representative of District 3 of the 2021 election year, 2023 candidate. Council, greetings, council. First and foremost to Ms. Bivens, I owe you all an apology regarding the last council meeting. We had a exchange, and all you were doing was just being the chief in charge, keeping the room in order. So my apologies for how I acted out. And, you know, I plan to be up there someday, so I can't be acting like a nut, you know. But anyway, this state's $117 million, I believe, is what's going to be allocated or voted on for our police department. Okay, kudos to the police department. But my thing is, what now? I mean, we vote for this fund and that's cool. No one is against policing, you know, because this notion that we have an issue with the policing in certain communities is not the case. So let me be the first to say we don't have an issue with policing. Only thing we ask for is just more accountability for the decisions making that goes on for the people who wear the badge. So if you're going to approve this, please, by all means, this is a lot of money. We need to get something in return from the police departments, you know, because there are communities that are having issues because the police choose not to be available. So with all of this money, they can implement something for these communities. And I do believe Mr. Nettles, months back, tried to put the word out to various organizations or individuals who may have ideas to get some type of dollars from CCPD funding. So thank you for doing it. I don't know if any other council members done it, but I do recall you doing it. So all we're just saying is just a little more accountability. That's all. You know, nothing against law enforcement. You have a job to do. But when I came up, I do recall a program called DARE that was in school. DARE drug abuse resistant education. I don't think it exists anymore, but programs like that and just anything to help these youth of this city to get their lives in order, because it's a lot going on, and I mean, I can't say no more. Just accountability, you all. Well, thank you for hearing me out.
Thank you, Adrian. Our next speaker is Thomas Trolankasi, followed by Bob Willoughby.
Mayor Parker and council members, again, on behalf of the Nassau Police Accountability Project, I wanted to kind of review this fiscal year. It was projected that this fund would be $80 million, I believe, and that the next fiscal year that this measure is reflecting would be $85 million. The projection for this year, I think, is actually $130 million. That's substantially more than the CCPD funds were projected to be in a 5-year run. We're on pace to nearly increase the funding by 60% of what was projected. Now, this is basically a tax, and that means that the poorest people in our city, the homeless people that go in and buy a bottle of water, pays this tax as much as the richest man in the city. The reason why I point that out is because it's kind of ironic. The city and the city council is considering this measure, submit an application for $117 million to the board. The board meets on the 23rd of August to consider this application and for other purposes, and potentially on the 30th if they don't get everything done. I say that because the board that meets on the 23rd and possibly on the 30th is the same 9 humans that you see in front of you. Instead of appointing separate citizens to serve on this CCPD board, it is literally themselves recommending to themselves that they appropriate $117 million and then some. And my point is, if you go to one of these meetings, you actually have the opportunity to speak, just like I'm speaking now. A lot of people don't know that. Different from this council, you have to sign up the day ahead of time. It's very important, and it's not the usual mechanism through the city secretary. So if you want to speak on the CCPD funding and this measure specifically, when the council votes twice, the second time basically, on the exact same giant chunk of money, learn the method and do it, or I can help you with that a little bit. Separately, what's really interesting is, and I know they won't do it, but this council brags on being the most accountable and transparent city council in the country. And so what I want to encourage them to do is, if they do take Police Officer Association funds in their political campaigns, to disclose that or to abstain from voting. And better yet, figure out a way to appoint a separate board so that you can have more of that work-life balance that you talk about all the time.
Our next speaker is Bob Willoughby.
You probably won't be able to read it completely. That's good enough to show you what we're talking about, all these items in here on these CCPD funds. Now, I want you to know, on the 20th of July, I held a town hall and invited people from the CCPD funds to come, because I told Keith Morris there with them that I was getting reports on our radio show that the funds weren't being used properly. They were given out to different organizations that helped put them back in office. So that's what I was told. And I said, come on the show and let's clear it up. Come to the meeting or the town hall. Well, he couldn't. He got denied to come to our town hall to talk about the CCD funds. This paperwork and him should have been at that town hall meeting. This should be advertised in the city news, which is controlled by Michelle Duke, which you'll only see cosmetic news there. Nothing that is substance will be put in as long as she's in charge of our news. Waste of our tax dollars, totally. Second thing on this, well, Thomas stole part of my thing. Yes, council dismantled the independent board that used to see these funds and put themselves in place. And then they turn around and yell, we're overworked. We need a $70,000 raise. So, same thing with the redistrictizing. They put themselves in charge. This needs to be postponed. It needs to be publicized better. And I got questions all over this thing. I just now seen it. I got too many questions here. So we should be able to answer these questions. You put it out for us to vote for it, but you don't want us to know about it when it came out. So one thing, it needs to be put out in the news. Also, it needs to be news and on our city news, and we need contact, and we need to be able to answer some of these questions before you go forward. And also, like Thomas said, if you're such a good council, you will put an independent people back in charge of this and take your greedy hands off of it. Thank you.
Thank you, Bob. For an important level of clarity, I'm going to ask one of our senior attorneys here in the city of Fort Worth to provide a little overview as to why the city council is your CCPD board legally by state law. And then I'm also going to ask Chief Noakes to come down and provide a level of clarity of what this application really means to the public. Thank you, Dennis.
Good evening, Mayor and Council, members of the public. Dennis McElroy, City Law Department. Chapter 363 of the Local Government Code, which governs the CCPD board, is funded out of sales tax, as Mr. Torrencassi pointed out. Currently, the city does not, or the Fort Worth CCPD does not apply its sales tax to utility bills. We could, we do not. Prior to 2009, I believe it was, that was not an option. The law was changed, and so basically this board was given the authority to determine whether or not that tax applies to the citizens. And at that point, the city council decided, because this is a tax, a question of whether a tax or not, it should be elected officials who serve in that capacity. And so the decision was made to have the council serve as the board, which is a mechanism that the state law allows.
Thank you very much, Dennis. Chief Noakes, come on down. Thank you, sir.
Mayor and Council, thank you so much for the opportunity to talk about the CCPD Crime Control and Prevention District, what it means to the Fort Worth Police Department, and quite frankly, what it means to the safety of all of the citizens in Fort Worth, regardless of zip code. It's meant for everyone in the entire city. It does pay for some equipment. It pays for some training. So we're training our officers to be the best they possibly can be. It pays for some positions. What I believe maybe some don't know are some of the programs. We have our Parks Community Policing Program paid for through CCPD. School Resource Unit Program. Our Crossing Guard Program, which is being expanded to cover not only elementary schools, but middle schools to make sure students have safe passage to and from school. It pays for programs designed to deal with violent crime in the neighborhoods that need the help the most, and it's policing that's done the right way, led by data and intelligence to go after the exact offenders and not to saturate an entire neighborhood. Our Code Blue program, Community Information Program, our Civilian Response Unit, which is a group of civilians that respond to low-level, non-emergency calls, which is what our community said they wanted in the first place. Our Crisis Intervention Team, Graffiti Abatement, Homeless Outreach Team, Neighborhood Police Officers, Domestic Violence Assistance Program. Our partners with the Shared Mission Program, such as our after-school programs, funding for Alliance for Children, a gang intervention program, training to make sure the officers that are responding to the citizens of Fort Worth are responding the right way. And it's also about community capacity development, giving back to the communities to empower them to be strong, to work with us while we make Fort Worth the safest major city in the entire country.
Thank you, Chief.
Thank
Any
you.
other questions, Council? I think Gina may be in the queue. Mayor Pro Tem, anything from you? Go ahead.
Share something. Chief, please come back because there's one I'm going to ask you to clarify. I support this, and what I'm going to say may be redundant to what the chief just shared, but if you've ever known a woman who's tried to get away from an abusive partner, you'd be glad to refer her to the Safe Haven program. That's where some of this money goes. If you know about juveniles and the stresses that they have this day and time, kids have mental health issues in 2022. Well, we have programs that we help fund through this money. This isn't padding the salaries of the chief and his people. This is really helping the citizens. Now, initially, when we approved this, long before I got on the council, it was a 5-year stint. but the citizens have so approved and appreciated what happens, we got 10 years. You need to know that. I would also share with you one program that's very special to me, Chief, and this is why I want you here. Tell us what the Civilian Response Unit does and what kind of difference that makes.
We listen to the voices of the community, and we hear a lot of voices, a lot of competing interests, but one we heard over and over again from various sectors of the community, they wanted an alternative response to non-emergency calls. Quite frankly, not every call requires an officer in uniform with a badge, with a gun, because it's not an emergency situation. And some felt that an officer responding in those situations might actually escalate the situation. So the idea was, let's let officers respond to the calls they really need to be responding to. Quicker response to citizens who are experiencing emergencies. Let's have a group of professionals that are highly trained to go and respond to non-emergency calls where there is no danger, to take reports, to collect evidence, to try to resolve low-level disputes. We've been able to do that. And initially, we didn't know how it would be received by the citizens or by our department. Overwhelmingly, internally and externally, we've heard again and again about positive interactions in the way people love interacting with our civilian response unit team.
Now, don't we commonly hear this referred to as the mental health unit? There's a mental health professional involved.
Now, that's actually, Mayor Pro Tem, our crisis intervention team.
Same money.
Exactly.
Same money.
And it is equally important. The difference there is when responding to a person who may be in mental health crisis, oftentimes me showing up in this uniform is not the best person to show up. We have officers there to show up because we want to make sure everyone's safe. So those officers should respond. But we have officers who are trained and partnered with master's level trained or higher, social workers, counselors, and mental health professionals who, as a profession, know how to deal with someone who might be in crisis, and they respond to those situations to de-escalate the situation, to make sure that everything is done safely, and routinely follow up with certain citizens to make sure they're getting all the resources they need to prevent them from ever being in crisis in the first place.
Thank you. Mayor, I support this, and if you're ready for a motion, I move for approval.
Thank you, Jim. I'm going to motion in a second. Any other discussion, council? Please vote. Thank you, Chief. And Dennis? Gina, I think you got to try one more time. Dennis, is that a party trick that you can quote local government code by memory? Not really? Very boring. Okay, well, thank you very much. I appreciate it. We'll move to the next item.
Next item is MNC 220562.
We do have a speaker, Thomas Trelancasi.
I wanted to have the council, Mayor, be mindful of the fact that you're basically, it looks like, empowering the Tarrant Appraisal District to do its job. The Tarrant Appraisal District is embroiled in quite a bit of controversy, and there's a meeting on Friday morning at 9 a.m. Their upper management may be terminated. The person on the TAD board that the city council has the most influence over, and we haven't heard a peep out of, is Jungus Jordan. It is clear that the scandals there exposed, and Mr. Chandler Crouch can explain that to the council more. While we need Tarrant Appraisal District to do its job, there's a deep need to dig deep and check out what's been going on, specifically with both Jeff Law and Randy Armstrong over there. And the city's representative is Mr. Jordan. So I don't know what the mechanism is to make that happen. But I've seen Mr. Jordan at a couple of meetings, and we haven't heard any comments from him on behalf of the interests of the city of Fort Worth.
Thank you, Thomas. Maybe for a point of clarity, this item is actually pertaining to the tax assessor collector, which is a different entity than TAD. So just pointing that out, that Jungus Jordan does not serve as a tax assessor collector, and that's actually an elected position. Wendy Burgess holds that. With that, council, we can have a motion. Thank you. Motion and a second. Please vote. Motion carries.
Next item is MNC 22-0575.
We have one speaker, council, Thomas Turlin-Cossey.
Council, I wanted to point out, this is a vote to approve a contract with Freeze and Nichols. They do work all over the state. They're specialists in engineering on water-related projects. In the interests of accountability and transparency, since this is declared to be the most transparent city council in the country, it would be handy to hear which city council members have received political donations from Freeze and Nichols, and you can acknowledge that before you vote, or you could abstain from voting on this measure.
Council, a motion? Motion and a second. Thank you. Please vote. Motion carries.
Next item is MNC 22-0579.
We have one speaker, Thomas Turlin-Cossey.
Mayor and council members, neighbors, and taxpayers, I need to make sure everyone understands that I'm often speaking on behalf of other folks. In this specific instance, I'm talking on behalf of Mr. Jesse that lives on Village Creek Road across from a natural gas pad with 14 wells. It is the example of the height of environmental racism in the Echo Heights Top 6 neighborhood. You'll hear a little bit more about that from my friends from the Sierra Club at another measure on the council agenda. This air quality compliance inspections and monitoring equipment is vital throughout the city because right now that gas pad and the city's responsibility, I believe, is limited just to groundwater issues. This particular spot, Jesse and both Tina James of that neighborhood coalition, environmental coalition, they're worried about particulate matter, specific fume detection, other emissions, 24 hours a day truck traffic, which stirs up dust and more particulate matter, noise pollution, surface water runoff, and a variety of other environmental impacts that impact the schools and churches nearby and the seniors like Jesse who live directly across the street. So while I'm in favor, of course, buying this equipment, the first spot you ought to haul some of this stuff is directly across the street from where Mr. Jesse sits every day.
Thank you, Thomas. That's the last of our speakers, council. Got a motion and a second, please. Motion and a second. Thank you. Please vote. Motion carries.
Next item is MNC 22-0590.
We have one speaker, Thomas Turlin-Cossey.
Mayor and council, it's the same ask. I'm not picking on Freeze and Nichols today, but they are on the agenda. They're getting 2 sweet deals, great contracts. They're very capable, but they're also very generous givers to political campaigns. So I'm going to ask you on behalf of everyone in the room and everyone that watches this afterwards, if you received or plan to receive Freeze and Nichols money, it'd be kind of handy to disclose that before you vote and give them another contract.
A motion, council. Motion and a second. Thank you. Any other discussion? Please vote. Leonard, sorry. Motion carries.
Next item is MNC 22-0595.
One speaker, Thomas Turlin-Cossey.
was wrong, everyone. I apologize, Mayor. There are 3 measures where Friesen Nichols gets giant contracts. Same ask. Be accountable and transparent. You can raise your hand because in this part of the meeting, you're allowed to respond to the public. So feel free to raise your hand if you've received donation funds from Friesen Nichols in the last couple of cycles.
Second, please. Thank you. Please vote. Motion carries.
Next item is announcements by city council member and staff, including upcoming and recent events, recognition of citizens, and approval of ceremonial travel if needed.
Councilmember Flores, you're up first.
Whenever you're ready, Melissa. All right, some slides. Seems not too long ago that the city and the nation celebrated our Independence Day, July 4th, and there were a couple of noteworthy celebrations in District 2, June 28th and July 2nd. Marine Creek Ranch HOA proudly celebrated their 4th annual fireworks show, and that's done professionally with exceptional displays of pyrotechnics. And the Northside Neighborhood Association had its 4th annual Independence Day Parade and picnic. Biggest they've ever had. Had a lot of door prizes there and a great turnout. Now, I don't know if we have a video embedded there in the presentation. This is just a sampling of some of what was offered there. This is a local, Mexican-style horsemanship group there by Cassie Lopez, who came over and offered their performing arts to the attending audience. Very exemplary of the different cultures that constitute our American melting pot. I wish I could do a horse like that, but don't have that skill set. All right, next slide, please. Okay, we're July 2nd, Northside Neighborhood Association, again, at its parade. We talked about that. Moving on to the next slide. I think what we have, back up one. I'm sorry, I lost my place. There we go, Billy Bob's. There's some good news coming out of Billy Bob's. July 5th, we gathered for the State of Billy Bob's, Texas. It was a press conference on Tuesday morning, and Marty Travis, their general manager, unveiled new renovations plans that involve knocking down an old support column that has been there and has been somewhat of a obstruction for performing, artists there, music groups, etc. So they're going to re-envision that. They're going to take that out, and they're going to enlarge that viewing area. It's going to increase ticket revenue and make audience happy. So good luck to them as they proceed there. Next slide now. All right, July 8th, community coming together, especially for our law enforcement community. There was an injured Haltom City, 2 police officers, Zach Tabler and Tim Barton. So, a third one, and Jose Avila, who were shot and injured in the performance of their duties. They are recovering, and there was a fundraiser for them at Cowtown Brewing Company. A lot of Fort Worth's finest were there, including Chief Noakes and Jimmy Polizzani and many others. It was a very moving tribute. All right, next slide. All right, now the library in action. At the Diamond Hill Library, Jarvis Library, we got together for a book reading. And so it was bilingual story time for this council member. So I read a book called El Cocodrilo, a que no le gustaba el agua. So a crocodile who does not like the water. And then the second one was Croc and Turtle, the best friends ever. So well received. We did some arts and crafts there with the kids, and we had some great giveaways. Really appreciative of the children that came and their parents that brought them, and thank you to the library staff. All right, next slide, please, July 8th. All right, Juntos Se Puede, another nonprofit who's given a lot to the underserved community. They had their scholarship dinner at the TCC campus, and they were awarded scholarships to the students and recipients. Sponsors came together to make that happen. And if it wasn't for Juntos Se Puede, many of these young students could not realize their college dreams. So,
Not turning you off, I promise it's not me.
I like that. All right. Next slide, Canales Furniture and co-sponsors, like the Fort Worth Police Department, had a back-to-school event, as many are going on right there, at their Ellis Avenue location. HWNT was present, along with Farmers Insurance, et cetera. We see Daniel Segura, one of Fort Worth's finest there, who was helping out with that effort. So appreciate everyone coming out. Next slide. August 5th, Castleberry ISD, one of the ISDs in District 2, came on board with our city departments for first Next Gen Ambassadors program. So had great attendance there by them and others. That ambassador program, I think, is going to be very essential to immerse students in getting a sampling and experience, paid experience at that, with city government, and who knows where it might lead to, might blaze a career path for them in the near future. So that was at the Botanic Gardens and Britt facility. All right, next slide. August 3rd, Julie Butner, who's the president and CEO of Tarrant Area Food Bank, she gave a tour to myself and I think to other council members as well, to their facilities, and gave us a look ahead of what they hope to do with expanding their capability to reach out and help underserved communities, especially when times of need descend, on us. Here in North Texas, they're a very big presence, and they deserve our support. So happy that they do the mission that they do every day. And I think this is the final, almost 2 more slides. Okay, there's an announcement there. Audit de la Rosa, along Frost Bank, are going to have their 3rd annual back-to-school supply distribution giveaway. That's Saturday the 13th, 10 a.m. to 12 at the historic Rose Marine Theater. So if you have children, bring them along because they're going to need those supplies. All right, last slide, but not least slide. I'm proud to say that the Northside Community Center has just finished an 8th-month renovation. And that renovation was made possible by CDBG funds to the tune of $5.46 million. And what a result it is. Now with 31,000 square foot, it is the largest community center in Fort Worth. So staff is very excited to be in the new digs. The community has been visiting there. They've had some soft openings. It's wonderful to see the possibilities. And then shortly, we're supposed to get furniture, but supply chain issues being as they are, kind of slowing that down. So we're going to have an official grand opening sometime in September. And that's all I have.
Thank you, Carlos. And now to Councilmember Williams.
Normally, it doesn't jump from Carlos to me, so I was a little surprised there. I have just a few slides. On this first slide, I had the opportunity, similar to Councilmember Flores and several other council members, to participate in the music and movement story time with our neighbors at the Wedgwood Library. It was a really cool time hanging out with our residents and our young leaders and talking about environmental conservation, and we read a really cool book to highlight that. Next slide. We also had a great time joining some of our amazing community leaders, our first responders, and the North Crowley cheerleading squad during the grand opening of Buffalo Wild Wings Go off of McPherson. They even let me make my favorite wings in the kitchen. It's mild with lemon pepper sprinkles, and I served everyone who was there with that. It's a really amazing opportunity, and the students of North Crowley are really excited to have another option for lunch in the community. Next slide, please. The next slide, we had a wonderful meeting with the Southwest Fort Worth AARP chapter, where I got the chance to share my story growing up in the area, and also some important district updates that affect our seasoned neighbors. Next slide, please. Yesterday, I stopped by the Southwest Community Center, and I was really excited about this opportunity. We got the chance to partner with some amazing artists in the community to teach our young campers at the Southwest Community Center about the industry of sneaker culture. I'm a sneakerhead myself and absolutely love shoes, but it's also a great opportunity for folks to be entrepreneurial and to get in an emerging industry of shoe collections. And so the kids got the opportunity to learn firsthand from an amazing entrepreneur who makes his own sneakers and customizes them. And so they had a fun time, and paint was definitely on the shoes, but also on their hands and shirts in some cases. But it was fun to see them exploring that career opportunity. And shout out to the Southwest Community Center for all the amazing summer programs they're doing, not just for our littles, but also for our teens as well. Next slide, please. So many of y'all know we broke ground not too long ago on a new library in District 6. And it's time to name that new location. And so the Fort Worth Public Library is taking nominations until August 31st. After the nominations close, a panel will review the submissions and select top 5 choices for the community to vote on in September. So if you haven't submitted your name or an idea for a name to this process, please consider doing that. And then we'll be excited to release and announce that on our social medias when it's time to vote, for you to vote for the top 5 choices. Also, please note that municipal buildings in Fort Worth cannot be named after living people. So if you're interested in making your nomination, you can do that by visiting the City of Fort Worth website. And then I believe this is my last slide. It's time for the budget cycle, like we do every year. And this year, we'll be hosting 2 opportunities for listening circles where we get to talk about budget. The first meeting will be on August 23rd at Southwest Community Center at 6 p.m. And a translator will be present at this meeting. The second meeting will be held on Thursday, September 1st at the Chisholm Trail Community Center at 6 p.m. So hope to see you there as we continue to ensure that our budget reflects your needs and the vision that you have for your neighborhood and the district. That's all I have. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Jared. Our next go to Councilmember Nettles.
Thank you. I'll try to keep this brief. We have a Southside Community Center, Southside Community Garden build days, and so you see Michael Crane. Jared was also there. I think they built probably about 4 that day. They're doing an awesome job in the South Side, 76104. Next slide, please. The 4th of July parade, the historical 4th of July parade in Como, was awesome again. Commissioner Roy Brooks gave us a sound off. He gave us our marching orders. And so it was good to be there. Next slide. This is Roots Community Festival. This is a young lady who inspires to get young people involved. And so it was a great meeting, and it was a festival on Saturday. Next slide. This is our education rally. It was held at Newbury Christian Ministries Church by Miss Bobby Edmonds. She's doing a phenomenal job for our community. I had the opportunity to be there. There was a lot of door prizes given out. The next slide. This is the Next Level Cosmo Hair Show. This is the final finale for our young girls who did an awesome job. So thank you for all who supported them. It was a great summer and a great event. Next slide. I had opportunity to be the keynote speaker for Khan Academy graduation here on Lancaster, and so it was great to be there to speak to our young people about their future. Next slide. Tarrant County Back to School Roundup happened this past weekend. It was lines outside the door. Ken Scribner was there, Commissioner Roy Brooks, and others, and so it was just great to be amongst the people in the community. Next slide. I had the opportunity to speak to Teen Civil Program at the McDonald YMCA. And I know there's a lot of pictures that you're seeing, but it shows that this community, this city council, even the ones that didn't show anything today, is very involved into our community and our neighborhood. So it is great to be a part of such a great council. I had the opportunity to speak to young people about gun violence, about education, and about their future. Next slide. I also had opportunity to do story time at the Ruby Carey Library. It was a fun adventure. I had on the red shoes, getting ready back to start walking the neighborhood again. And so it was good to be in the neighborhood. Next slide. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Chris. And to Councilmember Beck. Elizabeth, it's to you, but you'll have to unmute yourself if you can hear me. It may be a little bit delayed for her. Maybe she can't hear us. Oh, there she goes.
So,
Go ahead.
Okay, sorry about that. My computer picked the perfect time to drop off. Um, so it was council break, although we did not take much of a break here in District 9. We too had some fabulous 4th of July activities. You see two separate parades there. One is Ryan Place, the other is Berkeley Place, and also a huge shout out to Chris Mosley with our legal team. That gorgeous green MG that you see me in was driven by him, and so I appreciate his love of old cars and his willingness to drive me around on a hot 4th of July day. Next slide. We got to read to some preschoolers at our central library. It was a lot of fun. They definitely kept me on my toes, and I learned the hard way that double high fives cause chaos. So stick to one high five if you've got three-year-olds and below. Next slide. That's the video. I think we can go ahead and skip that for time's sake, Melissa. Okay, there we go. Had the opportunity to attend South Hills Pyramid Convocation yesterday. It was really great. I've been to a lot of pep rallies in my life with students. This was my first with teachers, and I can definitely tell you that our Fort Worth ISD South Hills Pyramid really does bring the heat to a prep rally. It was a lot of fun, and I really appreciate all the work that they're doing to improve our student outcomes in the district. Next slide. All right, this is upcoming. This is actually in District 7, but it's something I'm really excited about, and I wanted to make sure that everybody knows about it. 817 Day. So on the 17th, we will be having a concert showcase of our local artists. And I really want to take this opportunity to thank Manya Shore and Mike Crum. As part of my Get to Know the City tour last July, in touring Will Rogers, I saw this amazing space, this auditorium space, and thought, what can we do here? And Manya and her staff at the library took what was a harebrained council idea and turned it into what I absolutely know will be an amazing show. Tickets are free, so make sure you sign up, grab yours, and tell your friends to come and really get a local taste of Fort Worth. And I think that is all I have for today.
Thank you, Elizabeth. Appreciate it.
Next item is 22-2370, appointments to the Animal Shelter Advisory Board with a correction to Cindy Bowling's first name. It should be Cindy.
Thank you, Jeanette. Councilmember Crane? Thank you. Second. Motion and a second. Please vote, council. Oh, Jared, will you try again? Sorry, it's not working. Will you vote for Jared? Okay. Motion carries.
Next item is 22-2376, appointments to the Historic and Cultural Landmarks Commission.
Got a motion, council? Thank you. Motion and a second. Please vote. Chris. Motion carries.
Next item is 22-2373.
We have one speaker on this item, council, Bob Willoughby.
I want you to notice when I come down here, I do not recognize them as mayor and council. They do not respect us by taking away our right to speak here tonight. We're not on the presentation. Mr. Baylock and Firestone, you know, neither one of you, since you've been here, you're not even answered one question. Do you know English? Can you speak? You're not answering one question. I have filmed these people running out of this building and will not answer one question. If they can't answer a question, how can they serve on a board? They can't do this job. That is the premise of the job of a council member and mayor, to answer questions. That is their job. Okay, and when they don't answer questions, that should send flags up, and we're stupid not to hold them. Now, we outnumber them big time, and we should not let them take away our public right to speak here tonight, but we don't speak anymore like other cities do. Because I had some good things to say about the city, but I can't say them because we don't have 3 minutes no more. They took it away. Second thing is, until they can answer questions, how can you put you on a board? Mr. Baylock, I've got more footage of you backside than I do front side. Same thing with Firestone. Chased him all out of the street and I couldn't get back in the building. I didn't realize I went that far. So, I mean, this is just, I don't know. I don't understand you people. What is wrong with you? Is my mic dead now? Are it still on?
Anything on RTC you want to add for your remarks?
I'm sorry.
The Regional Transportation Commission to which this agenda item pertains, would you like to add anything?
Well, no, I guess my thing is if they can't do their job as council members, how can they be on any boards? I think they need adult supervision, really. Thank you.
Thank you, Bob. With that, council, I'll take a motion.
I move to approve this motion and welcome these two since I serve as vice chair of the Regional Transportation Council, and I deem them both appropriate.
Second. Thank you, Gene. I've got a motion and a second. Please vote, council.
Oh, I tell you.
Motion carries.
Next item is 22-2374.
We have two speakers on this item, Bob Willoughby, followed by Thomas Torlancasi.
Oh, okay, this is for our, the night out thing, okay? Look, we used to be able to come here and speak 4 times a month. You took the council meetings away to 2 times a month for yourself. You took us off there completely, and you put us in quarantine twice a month for you so no one else could hear us. Now you want to take away one of these days so you can go party? No, if we had all 4 nights, you know, I wouldn't mind giving up a night for a party, but there are some really important, serious things going on in this city that affects people to be off and not being able to express them, you know? And that's just not right to go party. You guys get off enough, okay? You cut down the time. You move the time to 6 o'clock and 10 o'clock. The meeting's easier for you. I swear, I've never seen such self-centered people in all my life. Really. So what y'all done in this city is more than anybody done in the last, oh, one other thing real quick, Maddie, if you don't stop me. What the
Actually, you're done.
What the
Thank you,
attorney
Bob.
said, what the
Thank you
attorney
very
said
much. We're
earlier,
done.
I would
Thank
like
you
to
very
rebuttal
much.
what the attorney said earlier.
It's just disrespectful at this point. Thank you very much. We'll go on to the next agenda item. Thank you. Motion, council. Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, Thomas, come on down. Thank you.
Mayor and council members, on this specific measure, I want to comment. I really want to comment on your own rules of procedures and how you conduct yourselves towards the public, but I'm not allowed to do that. I want to comment specifically on this. I get the part about rearranging certain budget days and that this is budget season. There is a new organization in Fort Worth. You probably haven't heard of it yet. It's WeThe330.com. It's an organization I belong to, as well as Mr. Mata and Chandler Crouch and a number of other people across the city. And our focus is on First Amendment rights. There are 5 First Amendment elements. 4 of them are practiced here regularly. In fact, 5 if you count freedom of religion. But specifically, as you know, I think you're eliminating one of the meeting nights this month, too. But the reason why we have these mega agendas and you nice folks are waiting so long to deal with your zoning issues is because they do cram all the business issues into every other Tuesday. The council may not see this way, but the people in the city believe that your first priority is to sit in those seats every Tuesday night. You just took 4 or 5 Tuesdays off. You're gonna take a Tuesday off at the end of the month. You have public comment every other week, but you cancel it when it's not convenient. The National Night Out is a focus on emergency responders, especially police. We're working and struggling on police accountability and transparency in the city. And most of the time, the public comment meetings are over well before 7 p.m. It seems to me that instead of canceling the comment, since you reduce, you can still have it and run out the door like you usually do and get to whichever propaganda National Night Out event you want to attend. But this is the epitome of an example of you shirking your responsibilities when it comes to the first responsibility as a deliberative body, which is to be here on Tuesday nights and actually deliberate and differ and debate and sometimes show a vote, especially in support of the First Amendment, that differs from your peers.
A motion?
Yes, Mayor, I have a motion, but before I do that, I just wanted to clarify a few dates because I believe October the 4th is the only Tuesday that's been canceled, and I believe here we're adding August the 10th, which is a Wednesday, separate from Tuesday, and then if needed, August the 12th, which is a Friday. Guys, you're going to have to come to work on Friday, and then August the 25th. Is another Thursday that we may have to add. So the only meeting that we're actually counseling is one. So I think it's important that we clarify that for these wonderful residents that's here, that you just don't hear a lot of words that's not meaning anything. So with that being said, since I have clarified that, I move to approve this resolution.
Motion and a second. Thank you, council. Please vote. Motion carries.
Next item is 22-2375.
We have one speaker on this item, Bob Willoughby.
Well, we need a city auditor, but I don't know anything about this one. When I looked at the agenda, I only have one question. What city did he come from? Is he from here or from another city? It wasn't listed where he came from. Can anybody tell me what city he came from? This auditor we're adding, his name's on the, should be up there, or when you go look at David. Yeah, where did David come from? Anybody know? You don't even know who he is, do you? Does anybody know the auditor? I don't think they do. You don't even say what city he came from? You're gonna set tight lip on that? Jesus Christ. I'm gonna start doing drugs or something. I can't handle you people.
Thank you, Bob. I think we're really excited to have this appointment on our agenda. David is here tonight. If you don't mind standing, David, welcome to the city of Fort Worth. Give him a round of applause. He's incredibly credentialed and went through a very arduous application process, interview process with several different interview panels, including all of us here on this dais. We are incredibly excited to have you joining us. I know that our audit committee is especially excited, led by Councilmember Firestone. If anybody else wants to say anything to welcome David to Fort Worth, go ahead, Leonard.
Oops, there we go. There we go. Yeah, David, just wanted to welcome you as well as chair of the audit committee. And we are excited to have you here. And I did just want to take a moment, Mayor, because you mentioned David's credentials, which are really terrific. And it was an arduous process to get here. We're excited to have you. We welcome you. But just, I think it's worth noting, of course, David is very well credentialed with a CPA, CFA, a CIA, a CCEP, a CISA, an FRM CFA, and a CTP, and Lean Six Sigma Green Belt. Pretty extraordinary. Did also want to mention David has great roots in Texas. He was at Rice University. He was at University of St. Thomas in Houston, and also got his bachelor's in business administration at SMU in Dallas, which of course we ignored, but we're happy. We're happy nonetheless. So welcome, David. We're glad you're here.
We're thrilled, David. Thank you so much. Okay, with that, council, we can have a motion. You want to go for it, Leonard?
Yes, motion to approve.
Thank you. Motion in a second. Please vote, council. Motion carries.
Next item is MNC 22-0570 with a staff report by Leah Brown.
Hi, Leah, come on down.
Good evening, Mayor and members of City Council. My name is Leah Brown, and I am a Neighborhood Development Coordinator in the Neighborhood Services Department. This evening on your agenda is MNC 22-0570 regarding the adoption of a resolution of no objection supporting a housing tax credit application by ECG Shelby LP for the development of the Shelby Trace Apartments. ECG Shelby LP intends to submit a 4% non-competitive housing tax credit application to the Texas Department of Housing and Community Affairs, otherwise known as TDHCA. In order for a housing tax credit application to be submitted to TDHCA, a municipality is required to hold a public hearing for the purpose of receiving public comments on the project. The proposed development will consist of approximately 300 units, of which 255 units will be available to households earning 60% or below of area median income, with an additional 45 units set aside for households earning 30% or below of area median income. The proposed development will be located at the southwest corner of South Ray Street and Oak Grove Shelby Road in Fort Worth. Staff has reviewed the request by ECG Shelby LP and found that the development is consistent with the quality, affordable housing goals and priorities in the city's 2018 to 2022 consolidated plan. Therefore, staff recommends that after any public comments are received this evening, the public hearing be closed and the City Council take formal action to approve MNC 22-0570 and the attached resolution of no objection for the development of Shelby Trace Apartments. Thank you.
Thank you, Leah. Any questions for Leah, Council? If not, I'll turn to Councilmember Nettles.
Okay, Mayor, I move to close MNC 22-0570 and move to approve.
Thank you. Got a motion and a second. Please vote, Council. We may have to do abstention for Elizabeth. I think she's off her computer for a minute. Oh, there she is. Okay. Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next item is MNC 22-0569.
Sharon Berkeley is going to come down. Hi there.
Hello.
How are you?
Great. Good evening, Mayor Parker and members of the council. I'm Sharon Berkeley. I serve as the Community Development Planning Manager in the Neighborhood Services Department. The purpose of the public hearing tonight is to receive comments regarding our 2023 Annual Action Plan, which is required for the city's receipt of grant funds from the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development, known as HUD. The action plan specifies how HUD grant funds will be used in the upcoming program year from October 1st, 2022 to September 30th, 2023. The total amount of grant funds budgeted through this action plan is $13,124,648, as well as an estimated amount of $100,000 in program income from the use of grant funds in prior years. Specific grant sources are the Community Development Block Grant, CDBG, the Home Investment Partnerships Program, HOME, the Emergency Solutions Grant, ESG, and the Housing Opportunities for Persons with AIDS Program, HOPWA. Overall purpose of these funds is to assist low-income households and neighborhoods. Recommendations for this plan's funding allocations were developed with the assistance of our Community Development Council, which is the city's advisory board for the use of these grant funds. The public hearing follows a 30-day comment period on the draft action plan, which ran from Friday, July 1st until Monday, August 1st. And this draft action plan was posted on the city's website for public review, and copies were also distributed to 2 regional city libraries and 6 community centers. One additional public hearing was held during this 30-day period at the LMA Chamblee Library on July 13th. As referenced in the submitted action plan, an amended action plan will be submitted in the event that one or more awarded agencies is unable to execute a contract with the city if required to do so by HUD. Staff is requesting that following any additional comments received this evening, this public hearing be closed and the MNC be approved.
Thank you, Sharon. Any questions for Sharon, Council? If not, we've got one public speaker on this, Johnny Mitchell.
Hello, everyone. How you doing?
Great.
Hey, I'm Johnny Mitchell. I am the Financial Programs Manager for the AIDS Outreach Center, which is led by Kelly Allen Gray. The funds that we get from the city of Fort Worth, we greatly appreciate because it helps the clients that we serve who have HIV, who are living with HIV and AIDS. And what we do is we use those funds to help them with rental, mortgage, and utility assistance. And without the city of Fort Worth, we couldn't make that possible. So we would like to thank everyone. And that's it. So thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mitchell. Appreciate you. That's the last of our speakers. Council, we can take a motion. We have a motion. Motion and a second. Is there discussion?
Yes, Mayor. I'm recusing myself from this agenda item due to a conflict of interest related to my current employer, the Tannery Food Bank. Thank you.
Thank you, Jared. Got a motion and a second. Please vote, council. Motion carries.
Next item is ZC-22-056.
We're moving into zoning, ladies and gentlemen. Our first speaker on this item is Andrew Ruig. Andrew, I apologize if I butchered your last name.
Oh, you did great.
Okay,
Usually it does get butchered, but thank you for that. Good evening, Mayor Parker, City Council members, Andrew Ruig with Master Plan Land Use Consultants. I had a brief presentation, but I can just kind of go over the case quickly. This is, oh, here we go. Thank you so much. This is a self-storage mini warehouse request up here on Northwest Loop 820 and Huffines Boulevard. We're requesting a PD zoning with a site plan for this area currently zoned commercial, intensive commercial and general commercial. This site has had several challenges due to its location and grading issues that are there currently. I think there's been a couple of proposals in the past that haven't passed muster with the surrounding community, and we've worked with them to come to an agreement as far as something that will be beneficial for both the property owner and the surrounding community. And that was some additional discussions with the Northwest Fort Worth Neighborhood Alliance. Additionally, we're located next to the Cross Point Church. We've had a letter of support from the pastor of that church who's looking forward to having a neighbor to help with some security. I'll skip forward just a couple slides. One of the things that we heard when we had our neighborhood meeting with the surrounding community is they wanted a lower traffic generating use, and mini warehouse self-storage is actually one of the lowest traffic generating uses. On ITE trips, that's about 128 trips per day if you're kind of going by the book numbers. We have another facility in Grapevine, and our numbers are actually significantly lower than that, about 33 trips per day. We had a couple questions that we were still working through with the surrounding neighborhoods after we've had a neighborhood meeting with them regarding landscaping and a deceleration lane issue. So I think the main concern that continued on was this right lane issue into the site. Because of our low traffic use, we looked at the, our access management policy for the city of Fort Worth and found that a right turn bay into the site was actually not warranted. However, we're open to looking into that scenario at the time of permitting. So just to give you a very quick overview, and then I'll try to wrap up my quick comments. This is our proposed storage facility, so it's all interior facing. We have attractive exteriors with enhanced landscaping provisions. So we are looking to provide an attractive, non-highly trafficked use to provide a storage option for the surrounding neighborhood and community, and have an attractive product there on site. And I'll be available for any questions should there be any. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Andrew. Our next speaker is Brad Boswell. Thank you, Brad. Councilmember Flores.
Thank you, Mayor. And thank you, Mr. Ruig, for getting us to this point. And you are correct. This site was not without its challenges ever since I've been a council member. Challenges have existed. So we might have something that I think is a workable product. So appreciate you making outreach to the relevant HOAs, to the Alliance, to working with them and having meaningful discussions, and also with my office. So with that said, I move to approve ZC 22-056 with the inclusion of consideration of a right turn deceleration lane on Huff Hines Boulevard to prevent traffic stacking and provide traffic metering.
Thank you, Carlos. Got a second from Councilmember Williams. Please vote. Motion carries.
Next item is ZC 22-046.
Our first speaker is Jordan Snyder, followed
Nice.
by John Palmer. Hi, John. Jordan, excuse me.
I had a slide deck. Thank you, City Council. Thank you, Mayor, for allowing me to present tonight. Jordan Snyder, Development Manager with Gardner Capital, Dallas, Texas. So without further ado, I'm going to go into tonight about the 2022 Comprehensive Plan and then dive right into the project overview. So within the 2022 Comprehensive Plan passed by City Council on March 8th of this year, it's identified that there's a shortage of roughly 23,000 units for people earning 30% AMI or less. Furthermore, the number one goal and objective within the housing section of the comprehensive plan is to increase the number of quality affordable units for low-income renters. And then even more, when you start looking at the news with articles such as this, the rent hikes across DFW have outpaced the nation. For instance, in Fort Worth, median rents are up 16% year over year versus 14% nationally. What that means, people are getting priced out of their home, or getting priced out of their apartments, excuse me, and if they don't have the means to afford a home, especially in this market, their options are limited. Number one, they have to move into a substandard apartment for lower rent. Number two, they have to move further out of town to find lower rent. Or number three, they have to hope there's not a wait list at existing affordable properties. So diving right into the site overview and adjacent uses, as you can see, the adjacent uses and the existing zoning surrounding the four corners, as well as the site's limited visibility and unique site shape, it doesn't make it conducive for retail development on the entire 6.8 acres. Furthermore, as some know in this room, retail development is market-driven, meaning the market will dictate what will go there and when. So I've worked with a lot of you guys up here. I've worked with the mayor, Councilman Crane, Dr. Williams, Dr. Nettle, or Pastor Nettles, and we started here at 197 units, 3 stories on the 6.8 acres. After numerous meetings, numerous feedback and input, especially from Dr. Williams, since this is his district, we landed at this current site. 1 acre of retail commercial pad, 5.8 acres of multifamily, 4 stories, 168 units. And I know there's a lot of discussion on what wants to happen with this site amongst the council. All I'll ask is we have an opportunity right here, right now, to address affordable housing within the city of Fort Worth. And especially with the public financing timeline we have, we request this doesn't get tabled and gets motion for approval tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Jordan. Next speaker is John Palmer.
Good evening, Mayor Parker and Mayor Pro Tem, council members. I'm John Palmer from McKinney. I'm a master developer throughout DFW. I'm here tonight not to speak specifically to this property, but ask the council to consider what type of a property it is. And that's a senior housing development, affordable senior housing development. So as we all might have historically an opinion on how many multifamily units we have either in the city or the county or the state, what is unique about this is there is no dispute that there is a need for quality, new construction, affordable housing for seniors. And so that's what my appeal tonight is. It is not looking at this as an apartment building. There is a lot of retail. We need a lot of retail, but what we really need is affordable senior housing for people that are living in substandard situations, including some I have personal relationships with that are living on their nephew's futon, waiting for something that is affordable and available. I build new construction, affordable housing across the state. When we open them, a lot of times before we finish our grand openings, they're running waiting lists. So tonight, I'm just asking that you consider, from a timing standpoint, because there is a timetable on this. We're looking for unconventional financing. And the last thing I'll say is in this market today, it's changing. Interest rates are climbing. Developers like me are looking at where we're investing and why we're investing there, and the clock is running out. It's not the last cycle, but I've been around for a few cycles and I see them lapse. And so vacant land can sit. This is an opportunity to do something now, and we're asking that you approve this so we can create affordable housing for seniors in Fort Worth. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Our next speaker is Beverly Adams. Is Beverly here? Oh, hi, Beverly.
Hi, hello. My name is Beverly Adams. I live in Hurst, Texas, and I live in a senior facility. If it was not for the senior facility, because of my income from my retirement and my Social Security, I wouldn't be able to live there. I don't know if there is going to be any more facilities built in my area, but it would be nice to have more opportunities and more selection for seniors to live.
Thank you, Beverly. We appreciate you coming tonight. Yes, thank you very much. Our next speaker is Annette Ogburn.
Hello, I'm Annette Ogburn, Hurst, Texas. I manage a senior property since 2011, and I help seniors that can't afford a place, a market rent. Multiple people have been brought to me that are living in hotels that are where you wouldn't want to live or drive past. So for them to have an affordable place where they can have dignity is important. This is the generation that went before us, that paved the way for us. So our lives are easier because of them, and we don't want to forget them in their golden years. We need to make it easy for them, and I appreciate it.
Thank you, Annette. Our next speaker is Elvira Jordan.
Good evening, Mayor and the City Council. My name is Elvira Jordan. I live in Melissa, Texas, in a senior housing complex, brand new. And I thank God for that because it put me in a new apartment, really nice, clean, no noise, no music. Open my blinds. I can look out at the swimming pool. At night, the swimming pool is lit up. I can just sit on my balcony and look at that. So, with that being said, you cannot get enough housing for seniors. I was accustomed to living what they call the good life of America. Well, when the market crashed, I lost everything. So now I'm staying with my daughter, which that's another story. I need something of my own. So God bless me to get in the Gaylor Senior Complex. I love it. And Mayor, the counselor, whatever you all have to do, you all need to approve that. We need it like yesterday. Thank you.
Thank you, Elvira. Best dressed woman at council tonight. Bonita Brandt, please. Bonita.
My name is Bonita Brandt. I live in Hurst. I'm 76 years old, and I'm currently going through the most stressful event of my life. On June 10th, I walked out the door of my apartment, which I've lived in for 12 years, found a flyer on my door stating that my monthly rent would increase by $160 per month beginning August 1st for a 1-year lease. I was stunned and panicked because I am living on Social Security alone due to my life savings having been wiped out by medical expenses. I moved to Texas in 2003. To summarize a very long list of health issues that I've had since moving here, I was diagnosed with thyroid cancer within a couple of months of moving here, subsequently diagnosed with breast cancer, had to have a major neck surgery, which resulted in a plate being put in my neck, have 2 heart conditions, and have recently been diagnosed with osteoarthritis. I will have to be followed medically for the rest of my life for all of the above. The plate in my neck is breaking down after 10 years, and I will have to have another surgery to address this within the next few months. I go to approximately 14 medical facilities within the Hearst area. I am no longer able to drive the freeways due to the issues in my neck. When I moved to Texas in 2003, I thought I would be financially okay for the rest of my life. I owned a condo in another state and intended to rent it out for the rest of my life to supplement Social Security, and I had significant savings. I had to sell the condo to pay for exorbitant health insurance premiums, $800 plus per month, and high medical costs. My life savings were wiped out. Having to apply for food stamps and electric help was a hard pill to swallow. I was barely getting by before this rent increase and have had to drive my car for 3 years with no working AC, and sometimes it doesn't start. I have aching teeth that cannot be fixed until January because my Medicare limit for dental has been reached for this year. I have no family except for my daughter who lives in Cape Town, South Africa with her husband and child. When I had money, I never passed by a homeless person. I always stopped and gave them money, sometimes up to $200. I never imagined that I would be threatened with homelessness myself. Since finding the flyer, quoting the new rent amount, I've worked with a social worker with my Medicare plan, but after making dozens of phone calls, we have come up with nothing other than years-long waiting lists for subsidized housing and housing vouchers. It goes without saying that this is not just about me, but it's about very many people who are in the same situation. I hope our stories will help others in our situation.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Our next speaker is Andy Williams.
Mayor, Council, come here isolated just on the issue of affordable housing. I sit on the State Board of Affordable Housing, and what I'd say from a statewide level, this is a problem. I vote in support because these are going to be veterans someday. We have a lot of veterans coming home, and we put up with our partnership a little over $100 million, and we haven't even dented it. So I'd say, Mr. Williams, vote in support because the capital, the unconventional financing needs to be deployed, and land costs isn't going to go down. And more importantly, it's a real issue for seniors specifically. And in addition, this creates workforce opportunities for those local. And then more importantly, what we're building today, the veterans will be living in tomorrow because we're only 20 years behind. Thank you.
Thank you, Andy. Good to see you. Our next speaker is Kia Tatum, followed by Mike Haley.
Mayor and Council, hello, good evening. My name is Keith Tatum, and I reside at 8717 Garden Springs Drive in the affected neighborhood of this planned development. Councilman Carlos Flores, I heard your incredible presentation, and Councilman Crane, I wish these developers had talked to me and my neighbors and they would have understood that we are still adamantly opposed to this development. And the primary reason why we're opposed is because you never thought enough of us to sit down with those who are immediately impacted by this development and let us know what was going on. In fact, tonight is the first I've heard by watching that plan on that screen. And you can see my house on that screen. We are directly impacted by this development. And while I appreciate seniors involved in their community, bringing seniors in from Hearst is disingenuous. Bringing seniors in from Melissa is disingenuous because we're not against senior living. My mother lived in a senior living complex when she passed away in 2001, and I was greatly appreciative of that opportunity for my mother. In fact, one of my best friends, Demetria McCain, is the new Assistant Secretary of HUD for enforcement because we fought to get these kind of developments in the right place, in the right neighborhoods. So, Mr. Councilman Williams, I asked emphatically that you oppose this zoning change and that the council oppose this zoning change with prejudice. And then if they're serious, they'll come back and talk to the ones who are directly impacted by your gross misrepresentation about what we need in our community.
I'm sorry, Mike Haley is our next speaker. Mike Haley's not here. Okay, that's the last of our speakers. Councilmember Williams, I'll turn to you first.
Thank you, Mayor. And thank you, Jordan and John, for updating the site plan. I'd like to make a motion to remand ZC 22046 back to the Zoning Commission so that all voices can be heard on the new site plan that was presented today, being presented.
Okay, Gina has comments too. I have a few questions. I'm going to first ask Jordan to come back up to the dais, if you don't mind. So refresh my memory, and you might pull his presentation up for me. We've seen this zoning case twice, and it looks different this time. Mm-hmm. So maybe you and Jared can chime in on the compromise that I think was achieved with the new site plan PD, and then I'll have some questions for Melinda Ramos.
Yeah, so after numerous iterations of the site plan and numerous discussions and in-person and WebEx calls with Dr. Williams, he wanted to preserve at least 1 acre for neighborhood commercial E. And so last discussion we had, which was last Thursday or Friday, Wednesday night, we had a WebEx call, and that was where we finally, painted the picture that this would not be feasible for stripping out 1 acre of general commercial and only having 3 stories. So he offered, giving us a waiver, possibly doing this PDD plan to bump it up to 4 stories to make it financially feasible again. However, I hear what Mr. Tatum's saying. With the iterations and the lack of time to get with Dr. Williams and get everything kind of tied together, it's hard to get all the community stakeholders on board. However, with that being said, there still is an opportunity right here, right now, to go with the original plan of the just strictly neighborhood or high-density D multifamily.
Mm-hmm. And the original plan you're referring to would not include this additional carve-out.
Correct.
Here it is here, yeah.
So this is the original site plan, obviously a lot different than this site plan.
Right.
Given kind of some comments from our PDC, pre-development conference, conversations with Mr. Stephen Murray, Armand Bryant, Senior Transportation Planner, where we made it more user-friendly and ingress-egress friendly, and that's more represented on here. So just picture this site without the retail and 3 stories, which is less of an eyesore than a 4-story building.
Right. And then how has your communication been with neighborhoods surrounding this site?
So 4 out of the 5, great. 1 Stone Meadow, which zoning commissioner Mia Hall resides on, hardly a blip.
Okay.
Very, very difficult. I sent numerous emails to their HOA board, their HOA community employee, that the company that manages their HOA, and all I needed was approval from the board to get an email out to, inform the whole HOA, and they wouldn't approve it.
Okay. And Councilmember Williams, in your experience and all your conversations, I know that a commercial piece of this being maintained was a priority. And in your conversations with Jordan and their team, did you feel good about this conceptual site plan?
Just to provide context, the plan that was here, we discussed back in May. And I said that, made it very clear that the neighborhood, although they, really support this vision for this project, there's also a conflicting interest in the need to preserve neighborhood commercial. And I said, if you can present something like this and take it to the neighborhood, I'm at least helping you get over one barrier. We didn't get this site plan until Monday, and staff hasn't reviewed it, neighborhoods haven't seen it, which is why I'm remanding it back so that we can give it, a fair shot with the new site plan. And for residents who haven't seen this, who've sent letters of opposition, can see this through the zoning process.
And this is a little bit difficult maybe for you to wax poetic into the future in your crystal ball, but in the conversations I've had with developers, both on affordable housing projects and traditional housing projects, because the market is so volatile right now, it's causing a huge disruption. So are you concerned if we remand it back to zoning, it will kill the deal completely?
Yes.
So how much time do you feel, to proceed with this project?
I mean, we have our Texas bond review application due October 5th. So
yeah.
the
So
clock's...
you would need to have a decision well before October 5th deadline. Right. Okay. Thank you very much. I don't have any more questions for Jordan. Jared may have more questions, and I know Gina had comments. Okay, go ahead, Chris. Sorry.
I got questions too.
Good. Jordan, just get comfortable, I guess.
Yes, ma'am.
I'm going to always respect the council person just because I trust them to know their district better than I do. But I'm concerned about communications. Now, I was looking for Bob Willoughby. Bob is the best communicator when it comes to getting meetings. How did you go about communications? I just heard emails, and I know the obstacles with HOAs, but did you rely on electronic communications?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of electronic communications, and especially with the era of COVID, a lot of HOAs are still doing WebEx and Zoom calls. I will say there's been so much change to the site plan that, especially, having a meeting, 4 days, 5 days before the city council meeting to finally arrive at a final site plan, that's just not enough time.
Well, let me tell you what you might want to do. I don't know the outcome of this vote, but what Bob Willoughby does in District 5, he makes the best signs. He puts them along access roads all over town, and they are very effective. And so, I would suggest to you, if you ever need to have community outreach again, no matter what the project is, you want to be a little bit creative, because it was of concern to me that Pastor Tatum's house borders where you're talking about, and he didn't know about it.
I will say, it was always our plan to take this strictly multifamily. So it wasn't until we finally got a meeting with Dr. Williams on June 28th where we'd been working with him to get this retail, 1 acre retail, get the 3 stories, with where construction costs are going, where interest rates are going. As I started rerunning those numbers, it didn't make it financially feasible. And especially in unconventional financing, which we deal in, it kind of has to pencil. And so when we finally got the meeting with Dr. Williams on June 28th, Wednesday, and we told him, look, we've done everything we can. From July 8th is when we did the tour of Gallup Central Park, and then some other tours between then and, July 28th. We tried to get with Dr. Williams, it's just hard.
Well, let me tell you what, I'm hearing a theme that Dr. Williams wasn't available, and I really don't want to get into that, because that's a little bit too, I don't like that. But what I will tell you is there's room for you in District 5 for whatever you want to bring. We are building, I always try to pitch from here. I got a car wash pitching from here. But we're building a senior complex right now on the outskirts of Arlington. And my district does include Hearst addresses, so there's room. But just know that whatever it takes to communicate to a community, I think you have to be able to do that. I'm sorry your schedule didn't work out like it should, but just know that I provided the second, and that's what I've agreed to do, so.
Councilman Bivens, let me respond to that. It was always our plan. We've been working with Dr. Williams to, come to this.
So for multifamily, did the zoning that you have right now allow for multifamily, which wouldn't require outreach? So you would still have to have outreach?
We'd still have to,
Okay.
well, and we did the outreach on the purely multifamily. And so what I'm saying is, with how the timing worked out, and especially with the timing for our application, we're wishing tonight to push it through.
I'm still hearing a deficit in communication, and that'll be the end of my conversation, because if you were going to have a zoning change for multifamily anyway, it still would have included Pastor Tatum knowing what your plan was. And so my suggestion is, when you do something in the future, you might want to broaden your approach. And that's the end of my dialogue.
Thank you, Gina. Councilmember Nettles, followed by Councilmember Flores.
Okay, thank you. First, let me say to the seniors that did come tonight, we appreciate you being here and traveling the miles that you did travel. I was always taught and brought up that you respect your elders and those that come before you. So I want to say to you, thank you for coming to a public meeting to speak before a council such as ours. So thank you for coming. I have some struggles with this whole zoning case, and I will tell you why some of my struggles is. One of the things that I ran on is affordable housing. And I don't care what anybody says in this room, we need more of affordable housing. When you talk about 30% and 60%, especially for our seniors, who I have a great aunt who's in the hospital now that got both her legs amputated, and we're looking for somewhere for her to be. I understand that it's important that we provide these type of housing. I voted on a hemp hill affordable housing that was very contentious, that caused me to lose some support in my neighborhood, in our community. But one thing I want to be a person of, is a man of my word, is that if I'm going to fight for affordable housing, that's affordable housing all over the city of Fort Worth. And I have done all my efforts, found every block, every street, every acre in District 8 to provide that type of affordable housing. And even when it comes to permanent supportive housing, I have asked my colleagues from the north to the west to help provide those. And so I talked about this last time you was here, because you reached out to me. And I myself, like Gina, I tried not to bud in other folks' districts, and so I didn't take the meeting. But when you came, I said, well, it's important to take, and so I did take the meeting. And I'll kind of just give dialogue of what happened at that meeting. We talked about your site plans. And I asked the question, I said, what is the difference between all affordable and then a piece of it being commercial? And you basically said, one piece gives us 150-something my units.
Yeah, 152 units
Okay.
at the 3 stories.
Correct.
No retail.
Correct. Without retail.
And sans retails. Yeah, no retail.
And then with retail, it gave 124.
For 3-story, correct.
For 3-story, correct. And I stated, where is the compromise? Because if Dr. Williams want retail, how can we get to that portion? And I think you guys stated, well, Dr. Williams said, what if we go up a 4th story with retail? And I think that's what you guys presented tonight. And so I think when we get to a point where we get to a compromise, we need to move forward. And I have completely tremendous respect for Pastor Keith Tatum. And I will also highlight and give support to Gina, Mayor Pro Tem, is that we have to do a better job at communication. I'm not building nothing on that lot, so I'm not finna go knock on the door. But if that is something that your heart is and revenue is gonna come because that's happening, then you have to do a better effort of making sure that everybody is communicated to. This is really hard for me. I support a lot of things that each council person do, but I cannot not support affordable housing. So I cannot support continue kicking it down the road. I don't know if there's going to be a substitute motion from the current motion, but as of right now, I won't support kicking it down the road.
Thank you. Thank you, Chris. Councilmember Flores, did you have some questions? And I have a question for John in just a minute, just to put him on notice. Go ahead.
Yes, ma'am, I do. Okay. How do the deed restrictions on the site affect the economic feasibility of having neighborhood commercial on that property?
It's a lot of various uses, so it's like amusement parks, bingo parlors, dance halls, auditoriums, assemblies, a lot of retail that doesn't fit in that 6.8 acres anyway. So, and then additionally, when the Chase Bank bought that parcel and developed their financial institution, there's a deed restriction for other financial institutions, so no more, no competitors. And then also Golden Chick, when they bought their parcel, kind of closer to Reisinger, they also put a deed restriction on our parcel that no fast food quick service restaurants with chicken as their main item could be
So
developed
some
there.
consideration for competitors. Okay, I understand. All right. This property is surrounded by neighborhood commercial with the area to the south being undeveloped. So I guess I'm trying to get, a comprehensive picture on the importance of having commercial on this site if it's surrounded by neighborhood commercial. So excuse me for my ignorance. I'm still trying to wrap my head around that.
Yeah.
Mayor, may I answer that? Okay, a couple of things. That's a great question, and we kind of alluded to before. Retail is retail. On this particular site, I believe there is a list of restrictions. But one of the missing parts of the conversation in the community engagement, Mayor Pro Tem, that's the most important thing of the piece, is Pastor Tatum, who voiced concern about specifically multifamily behind him. What was not mentioned tonight, which is of really interest and should be, is if you look at this particular exhibit where it states Hallmark Baptist Church, there's kind of an L-shaped vacant land that wraps that. That southern portion is already zoned multifamily.
All right.
So what I'm bringing up is we do a lot of development. Can we do a better job of community engagement? We can. Our job is to create, in today's economy, the highest and best use. And I would argue, to your point, Council Member, if you look at E and F and F and F, there's vacant land that has not been developed, to my knowledge, ever, retail or otherwise. And there's a reason for that, because the market dictates who's going to go there and when. The good news is, if you look at the credit tenants who are there, Chase Bank, Walgreens, CVS, those people do very stringent demographics. But my experience and why we're bringing this up, whether it's in a community engagement and with credit to Jordan, when we talk about electronic community engagement, we do a lot of outreach. But for those people that are opposed, I have to say, they're going to be opposed for their reasons, and their noble reasons. But for instance, the argument that, we really don't want multifamily behind us, you have to look at the zoning already that exists on that church property, and that's multifamily. So what we're looking for here on our particular, Jordan's particular design is, how can we take that site? But senior living, I don't care if you live in Hearst or you live in Melissa or you live in Fort Worth, you're a senior. And as a result, that center portion where the proposed senior living is going, and even with or without an acre of retail, That's the highest best use, because my experience in a lot of retail is people are not going to buy or build retail in the center of that property. Does that answer your question?
Yes, I think it does. And let me move on for the sake of time, because
Yes.
other council members might have some
Yes.
remarks. Is the property currently under contract?
Yes.
Okay. When do you have to close on it?
Closing, I believe, is 2/21 or 2/1 of next year. But we're going to have to push out, just given kind of how closing works for debt and equity as well as the tax credits.
Okay. I'm going to close my questions by saying this. You know, I tend to agree with Mayor Pro Tem Bivens when she says, at least in my observation, there's some deficiencies there in communication, right? Maybe from the start, you know, certainly with this latest site plan proposal. So that I can see, could it have been better? Yes. Might it have avoided, this coming to a head at this juncture? Possibly, okay? But generally speaking, you have those communications on the front end to avoid situations like this. So I'll yield the floor, Mayor.
Thank you, Carlos. Who else is next? Elizabeth, go ahead, Elizabeth.
Hey, thanks. So I want to reiterate what we've heard from Mayor Pro Tem Bivens and Councilman Nettles, that it is generally the policy that we trust in our colleagues and the decisions that they make in their districts. It's also our duty to the city to make sure that we are looking at the entire landscape and not getting so myopic within the boundaries of our own districts that we miss the forest for the trees. I have some real concerns about affordable housing and the support for affordable housing and permanent supportive housing in that area of town. We've all committed to being good partners and good neighbors amongst each other in our council districts to ensure that we are all equally bearing that particular function of making sure that the most vulnerable in our city have a place to live. We have taken a decision as a policy decision as a city that we weren't going to centralize and concentrate poverty anymore. And the way that we implement that is through making sure that our permanent supportive housing and that our affordable housing are spread across the city. And so it's vitally important that those facilities be in District 9, District 5, District 6, District 8, District 4, District 2, and so on. And so when this comes back, I will be supporting this particular project. I think that affordable housing, particularly for our seniors, is so vitally important. I can tell you that there are these types of facilities in District 9. They're great neighbors. They aren't just neighbors that live quietly next to our residential communities, but they join our neighborhood associations. They come to our national night outs. They participate. They show up. They're great residents, and I want to make sure that we're doing what we need to do to take care of folks in the city of Fort Worth, and that, without question, means affordable housing. Thank you.
Thanks, Elizabeth. Councilmember Bivens, did you have anything? Go ahead.
Well, torn. Jordan, I don't know you, but John makes you look good. I know John. I know the standards that he has. I'm just real torn, with this. I'm looking at these senior citizen ladies. I'm 67, so I'll be down there doing the same thing you're doing in a few years. I'm trying to figure out a way to look at the clock so that there is no harm done to any stakeholder. Yes. No harm done to those prospective renters, no harm done to you financially. Tell me about the numbers in terms of affordable units, anything permanent. What's the breakdown of your units?
So for the it's always going to be 100% affordable, whether it's 1 acre with a 4-story of multifamily,
Okay.
or if it's just purely multifamily. So it's going to be
Okay.
100% affordable, 15% dedicated to the 30% AMI category, 85% dedicated to the 60% AMI category. And the reason for those percentage splits is you have to submit a priority application. So priority 1 applications for the bond allocation, private activity bond allocation. If you're not a priority 1 application, chances are you're not going to get a bond allocation. And so for it to pencil the best, there's 3 different options. I believe it's 50-50, 30% AMI, 60% AMI, 15%, 30% AMI, and then 85%, 60% AMI. And then the third is a blend of that. But basically, for it to be competitive, that's why we pick those splits. And so with more units, obviously, the more we can target the 30% category, which is obviously very
Okay,
much needed.
you're good. Councilman Williams, let me ask you a question. I fully respect, what you see here. Are you open to a meeting immediately with this group, with the neighbors, and as opposed to remanding that to council, to a zoning, bring it back to us in a couple of weeks?
I would defer to one of my constituencies here, Pastor Tatum, if we have a community meeting and we continue it for 30 days, how would you and the neighbors feel about that? And just to note, we've had several letters of opposition. So, Pastor Tatum represents Fox Run. However, there's still, the district
I
didn't
don't
know
want to
anything
change
about it, et cetera.
minds. I just
Right.
want the communication to be pure.
Right.
And that's what we've asked all along, genuine communication with the taxpayers. I've been there since 2016, and I'm the newest neighbor, and we get along well. And when I shared with them that this project was moving forward, every one of them was surprised because they had not heard one thing about it.
So do you think we could gather a meeting within 2 to 3 weeks?
I think we can have a meeting if we're serious about it. I think we can sit down and have a discussion about it. But if this is just about the greedy blind eye, we're going to oppose the bonds. We're going to oppose the tax credits.
And that's okay, that's
And
okay.
I get that, but what I'm saying is in the best interest of our city,
be real.
not Dallas, not McKinney, not Hurst, with all due respect. I have nothing but respect for the work they do. But please respect me as a citizen of Fort Worth who pays taxes in that neighborhood. You at least ought to have the decency to stop by and knock on my door and say, hey, we got this great project.
Well, I will help Councilman Williams knock on your door, other doors. Jordan, you need to get some senior citizen, pretty ladies like you have here, but let them be from Fort Worth. I think that'll carry over better. And I don't know how to make this, what is this called, Maddie? An amended, second, whatever?
Well, yeah, we'll have to make a separate motion or they'll withdraw the motion on the floor. And I think for clarity, in addition, I'd asked Melinda Ramos and Leon Guzman to clarify, if we were to remand it back to zoning, which Dr. Williams' first motion was on the floor, the soonest it would come back to council after zoning is September 27th in a quick turn. Is that correct? That is too tight of a deadline on October 5th. I cannot support that motion. And while I respect greatly Pastor Kiev Tatum's point here, I do just want to ask, Kiev, if you don't mind coming back down, I have a question or two for you. Thank you for your letter. I think it was really helpful. I know that there's a concern about changing the zoning of your neighborhood commercial area residential. Without holding you to anything, sir, and knowing that this is a current proposal, is this something that you could get supportive of with commercial and multifamily affordable?
I have not seen
Okay.
anything in regards to this project.
Fair enough.
I don't know what was initial.
Okay.
I don't know what was scaled down. I don't know anything. So it is unfair for me to say I would support anything without knowing the basics of this proposal.
Sure.
And it's so Mayor, and I want to be emphatically clear. You know my civil rights record. It's over 30 plus years. If anybody fight for seniors better than me right now, let me know who they are and where they live and affordable housing. So to make this argument about affordable housing is disingenuous to me. What this argument is about these developers who come in from other cities to do business in our city and don't have the respect to talk to the taxpayers who are in the front yard, not the backyard. I mean, when I walk out my front door, I can see those apartments. And they didn't have 1 ounce of respect for the traditional process of the city of Fort Worth. And you know and I know, when they go to the next level, one of the primary questions is for tax credits. Have you reached into your community to gain their support? And I'm gonna stand before them and say, they absolutely have not talked with us.
Fair enough. Thank you, Reverend Tatum. So Councilmember Williams, I can't support remanding it back to zoning, but I do think, to Gina's point earlier, there's a breakdown of communication. I think if you would consider withdrawing your motion and it coming back to council in a few weeks, I can support that. I think this project needs to move forward. But I don't think, looking at John and Jordan, you want to move forward without the neighborhood support either, and people like Reverend Tatum be prepared to go down to Austin and support your tax credit application as well. That would be ideal. So there's a lot to unpack there, and I know that the burden will be on Dr. Williams. But I think this dialogue has been incredibly important tonight, because this is going to keep happening across the city of Fort Worth in every single district, because affordability is probably the top concern of Americans right now, especially as inflation continues to climb, gas prices, wages have stagnated. So we need to be respectful, especially of our senior population. And I think there's a lot of opportunity here to get this right. So that's my recommendation, Dr. Williams, if you'd entertain that.
Absolutely, and I completely agree with everything that's been said. Like I said, this is not about the affordability aspect. This is about bringing our neighbors along with us. And so I'd be supportive of continuing it for 30 days and pull together a meeting. The other thing that you all will need to do is connect with staff on the appropriate zoning, because we're going to have to make some adjustments in the next motion to make it right. So staff has to review the site plan and make sure that we're ready to go.
Withdraw his motion.
So you withdraw your motion first.
Right, so I'm going to withdraw the motion, and then I want to make another motion to continue it for 30 days.
So that would come back to us on September 13th for final decision. Got a nod from y'all that works. Yeah, we can shuffle it around. Okay, go ahead, Dr. Williams.
That's it.
Thank
That's
you.
the motion.
I've got a motion.
I did the second.
Got a second from Michael. Thank you. Any other
I did
discussion?
the-
Okay,
I
they're
did
fighting
the
over it. There
second.
you go.
All that talking,
Okay.
I did that second.
Thank you very much. We're going to vote, council.
And Mayor, to Jordan, we need to make sure he understands communication. If you see that guy with the white hair, that's Bob Willoughby. Ask him what he does. It's very effective.
Okay, motion to continue passes. Thank you, gentlemen, for taking the time. Thank you, Reverend Tatum, for being here. And to all you ladies, you stole the show. You were wonderful. Thank you so much for being here and taking the time. Andy, good to see you. Carrie Moon, don't you miss us? I just noticed you were back there. We just needed you to go through one good zoning case, Councilmember Moon. He's hiding out in his polo shirt back there. Thank y'all very much. Okay, we're going to move on. Bye, ladies. Thank you. Of course.
Next item is SP-22-009.
We have one speaker, no opposition, Fred Power, but there's only opposition. Otherwise, I'll turn to Councilmember Flores. This one's yours.
Mayor, move for approval.
Thank you. Motion second. Thank you. Please vote, council. Motion carries.
Next item is SP-22-011.
This one's with Councilmember Beck. I've got two speakers, but there's no opposition. Elizabeth.
Move to approve.
Thank you. We've got a motion. Motion and a second. Please vote. Motion passes.
Next item is ZC-22-065.
Thank you. Got a few speakers on this one, Gina. Our first is James McCulley, followed by Ray Ojeski.
I'm James Parker McCulley. My current residence is in Cedar Hill. I spent the first couple of decades of my life on Avenue K in Poly. Graduated from Poly High in 1961. I maintained a residence there until the early 1990s for my parents, and I'm the owner of the land. The farm it's farmland, and Parker Henderson Road, and no, I'm not aware of any relationship to the mayor. My mother was a Parker, and the road is Parker Henderson Road that bisects the property. It was farmed by my grandfather beginning around 1900. My parents then farmed it, and now I oversee the farming of it now. My children, unfortunately, aren't in the area, so I'm not going to have anyone to pass it on to. And since we're talking age, I'm 79. So there's a limit to how much longer I can oversee it. My children do not live in the area, so it's going to be hard for them to oversee it. So from a family land ownership standpoint, this is a good time for it to be developed. The road, Parker Henderson Road, bisects it. The east side of the property, and it's roughly equal in acreage, 57 acres. The east side of the road has been, in city planning, designated for light industry. The west side of the road, to my surprise, I recently found out was not light industry. I'd always assumed it was, and had been told that until recently I found it had been designated for open space, which really doesn't make good sense because there's also already an active drill site and gas wells. The light industry, to me, seems to make good sense, the highest use. The east side of the road has already been designated for that, and as I said, I thought the west side was too. It will bring jobs, it will bring tax money, and the tax money could hopefully help somewhat the neighborhood, the Echo Heights neighborhood that has concerns about the infrastructure in their streets, in their neighborhood. So hopefully bringing tax money would be a benefit to that. Could be a benefit to the school that is adjacent to a portion of the property. Oh my gosh. Fort Worth in general has supported what's going on a lot in the community. The development of warehouses and distribution centers. There was an article quoted at the P&Z committee about the environment and air. It was taken a lot out of its position.
Thank you, Mr. McCauley. I hate to cut you off. We may have questions in just a moment. Thank you. Mr. Ojeski, followed by Lucretia Powell.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Ray Ojeski, representing Leon Capital Group, the proposed developer of this site. Council, you see before you a concept plan for this property that Mr. McCauley was describing to you. You can see the east portion of the property labeled as Building B, and then you can see the west portion of the property as Building A. As he said, where you see Building B, that is designated for industrial growth center in the future land use plan of the city. The property there, Building A, as he mentioned, is in the open space designation, which, as he told you, is problematic for a property owner who is told that his land is only valuable for agricultural use or possibly a park that would be purchased by the city, but there's no plans to purchase that park by the city. City staff has confirmed that. So here, we just believe again that the 57 acres as a total development is the proper use for the property at this location. There's been concerns with traffic that were brought up by the opposition here. There was a traffic study that was provided to the city, and it was primarily with regard to truck traffic. There is already truck traffic, as you'll note, further east on David Strickland Road with 3 industrial warehouse complexes that are already in existence on David Strickland Road. So the study found that the addition of this development would not adversely affect the traffic impact to David Strickland Road. There's also been concern raised about proximity to the school that is right across the street from Building B. And as I mentioned, further east at this location, as you go back toward 820, there are exactly 3 existing industrial sites that are all warehouse uses. The school has been there, as I could find, on Google Earth since 1995, and these industrial uses have been there since 95 as well. So the proximity of the school to this type of use has been there for a long time. Finally, there were environmental concerns that have been raised. The source of those environmental concerns is not, has not been determined by any study that we can find that supports the environmental concerns. I'm not saying that the people that will tell you there are concerns have been affected. There's just no studies that we can assess to show exactly what the proof is. Councilmember Bivens, if it helps this case to reduce the size of this development, we could request a continuance. We could carve out Building A, and we would bring back just Building B, which is already in the Industrial Growth Center, for the zoning change in this case. Thank you.
Thank you, Ray. Our next speaker is Lucretia Powell.
Good evening, Council Diocese. I stand before you supporting the ZC 065 and others in the community who have chosen to remain anonymous. I support this project because it is not an environmental threat or threat to the community or safety and the surrounding communities. With noting also, there's been concerns about trafficking may possibly increase negativity, but with noting on that, I am grateful that some time ago, I believe beginning of the year or the end of the year, it was a community personnel who donated to the Fort Worth Police Department the land on Sun Valley and the service road. So with that additional to the community, there is safety. Also, it is not an environmental threat, safety issue to school children in or out of school session. I am a grandmother of 19 grandchildren. I've had the afforded opportunity to teach primary and secondary scholars for many years in the private school sector. Teaching and working with youth will forever be a passion of mine, and with regard to their totality being. I support this project and community investment plan with contingency if granted. Again, ZC065 project is not a threat to the community, health, or safety. I will also add, I am a living, walking testimony, 9-year cancer survivor, and will continue to be. The environmental will have no effect on my health or my children or grandchildren. Mayor Pro Tem, whatever your decision may be, I salute you and I respect your leadership. Thank you.
Thank you, Lucretia. Our next speaker is Evelyn Mayo, followed by Letitia Wilburn. Thank you. Is Letitia here? Hi, Letitia. Come on down. Letitia will be followed by John McFarland.
Okay, may I use your screen, please?
Of course.
Okay, I want everybody to look at this EJ screen report. I want you to notice the blue. The blue is the national level. This is based on Echo Heights. You know, Echo Heights ranks above average in environmental pollution. They want to talk infrastructure, but we're here to talk about the environment and pollution and how the kids are impacted. Of the 81 schools in Fort Worth, 9 are in or surrounded by industrial industry. Of those 9, 100% are in Black and brown communities. Now, Echo Heights is a Black and brown community. It sits off 820, 287, and 20, which means that we have pollution from that. And it should never have been zoned industrial to begin with because of the pollutions from the freeways. The community consists of approximately 705 homes, 1 school, which is WM Green, 1 park, Prairie Dog Park, 1 polling site, which is also located at WM Green. It has over 186 industrial businesses. Each one has cancer-causing 18-wheelers. These things weigh 80,000 pounds, and each one have pollutions that emit 40 cancer-causing pollutants. And they want to put this across the street from an elementary school with multiple trucks. The citizens of Echo Heights and other Black and brown communities, and I don't want y'all to get offended by this, but we are actually under urban, environmental, domestic terrorist attacks by the city of Fort Worth. And the reason I say that is because of this. Okay, now just look at this particular report and look at the industrial zoning, the disparities in the industrial zonings. Now, the city of Fort Worth took the time over decades to go into Echo Heights and remove the prairie dogs to safety. They did that, but they did not take care of the kids. There's a 2012 Cook's Children's Asthma Report for Children, which stated that Echo Heights was high in asthma, but the city of Fort Worth did nothing about it. They added more industrializations to the communities. Not only that, they changed their rules as they went about, meaning that even when the community fought things to avoid zoning changes, the city backdoored that and changed the zoning anyway. So we're stuck with more things that are detrimental to our community. And no one has even spoken about the children with disability that attend school at WM Green.
Thank you very much. Our next speaker is John McFarland, followed by Chris Jones.
Hello, I'm John McFarlane. I am the chair of the Greater Fort Worth Sierra Club. We advocate for clean air, clean water, and we advocate for environmental justice communities. This is a classic case of environmental racism. This zoning change of development will have direct adverse effects to Black and brown community, Echo Heights and Stop 6. This community is already overburdened and disproportionately affected by industrial uses such as shipping and logistics companies, which are trucking companies, gas drilling, waste services that cause excessive truck traffic and air pollution. The development is directly across the street, a 2-lane road to WM Green Elementary, a predominantly minority elementary school. We wouldn't be talking about this case, or even this case wouldn't even be brought up if this development was across from Tanglewood Elementary or Lily B. Clayton or Westcliff or Ridgely Hills. This simply wouldn't come up. I wanted to let you know that the Fort Worth ISD actually opposes this case. I notified, along with some members of Echo Heights, the Board of Trustees, my District 9 and Wallace Bridges District 5, I can't remember what district it is now, but anyway, the district opposes this zoning request change because of its effect to children, Black and brown children. This community is 85, so Ms. T talked about EJ screen. This comes straight from the EPA. They are in the 85, Echo Heights and Stop 6 are in the 85 to 90 percentile of particulate matter, 90 percentile for ground level ozone, which is smog, which can be caused by the truck traffic. 70, 90 percentile of diesel particulate matter, which is also emitted by diesel trucks. 70 to 100 percentile traffic, 70 to 90 percentile of toxic cancer risk. I can go on and on. Also asthma. So the Fort Worth Comprehensive Plan calls for light industrial surround this school. And so I'm asking that the city of Fort Worth also look at this comprehensive plan that future uses are industrial uses. So the Fort Worth Sierra Club, the Environmental Justice Coalition of Fort Worth, the support denial with prejudice of this case. And we've been working with the Echo Heights and SOP 6 Environmental Coalition as well.
Thank
and
you, John.
we all oppose
Thank you, John.
the zoning request change. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Chris Jones, followed by Sherry Warren Dukes.
All right. My name is Chris Jones. I live at 5316 Parker Henderson Road. My property connects directly to one of the properties that are being requested for land zoning change. I'm against this change for many reasons. Coming into the neighborhood from virtually any direction, there are trucking companies, industrial complexes, and other businesses that surround virtually the entire neighborhood. These lands create a buffer between the companies that already exist in the area and the residential neighborhood. These properties in question currently help to create a buffer zone, noise reduction, neighborhood isolation, so that it feels like a small town atmosphere and a community environment. It provides a peaceful environment. These properties and how they are currently used was part of a decision when we made the purchase of our home. With over 185 businesses compared to just over 700 resident housing properties, the ratio of businesses to residents is almost overwhelming. I do not want to see more industrial businesses reducing the air quality near my home. My 89-year-old grandmother lives with us. She is terminal with stage 4 heart disease. My wife works from home to take care of her. We sit out on the back porch every single morning facing this property, drinking coffee before I have to go to work. I do not want to live next door to a building that's going to generate even more truck and business traffic that disrupts how the school children get to school, how I'm going to walk my dog, or how that's going to disrupt my lifestyle and my family's lifestyle. I do not want to live next door to the big building that will have multiple tractors and trailers making lots of noise. I don't want to live next door to a building that dwarfs the acre of land that I purchased to have a peaceful environment for my family events, and for holiday events. The developer states that they contacted people in the area, including on Kellis and Pecos streets. Both streets are opposite side of Prairie Dog Park. However, they did not feel it was important to address the neighbors that were within the 300-foot notification area as defined on their agenda. While we were never approached by the developer, but received a mail to come to the neighborhood association meeting to find out about information. Under the rules of procedure for the city of Fort Worth, under section 8.1.3, changing of the zoning ordinance, I live within 200 foot of the affected property and ask that at least a 3/4 members vote of the council must be in agreement for this vote to be approved. I request that you consider the long-term safety and health of the children of WM Green, our seniors, and our residents, and deny this with prejudice. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, Chris. Our next speaker is Sherry Warren Dukes, followed by Crystal Wilburn.
Good evening, Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, and Council. My name is Sherry Dukes, and I am Echo Heights Neighborhood Association President, and I oppose ZC 22065. I represent myself and Echo Heights community. If there's any still here, would you mind standing and raise your hands? Thank you. We are a community of interest, and I love to say that. Our community is a friendly, family-oriented, low income, and have homeowners of all races. When I woke up from being so comfortable in myself, I focused. And I realized that the community was being overtaken by industrial companies, polluting Echo Heights, our air and natural land. I ask that we, the people, as people, save the children at W.M. Green Elementary, save the community, and save the land from polluters. This is a public health and environmental issue. I oppose it. I would like to add that the children are our future, and who would want to hinder their livelihood? How many communities of interest in the city would allow this? Also, Parker Henderson Road is still not completed, and it's been over 2 years. I only have one other thing to say, and it's a quote, if I may. No American should have to live, work, or send their kids to schools in a neighborhood that carries an unfair share of environmental hazards. And that was said by Associate Attorney General Vanana Gupta. So I rest my case, and thank you.
Thank you, Sherry. Our next speaker is Crystal Wilburn. Is Crystal with us?
She's removed.
Okay.
She's actually
Hello,
removed.
my name.
Hi, Crystal. Go ahead.
Hi, my name is Crystal Wilburn, and I strongly oppose VC 22065. I grew up in the neighborhood of Echo Heights, and I attended elementary school at W.M. Green from kindergarten all the way up through 5th grade. And my siblings and I, we would walk to school. We would walk home using Parker Henderson Road. And back then it was pretty safe for us to do so. I couldn't imagine placing an industrial business directly across the street from this elementary school. It would be super hazardous to small elementary kids, the heavy traffic from the 18-wheelers. You're putting them at risk for accidents, the foot traffic and the normal school traffic, people traveling in their cars, fumes and air pollution. There's an increased threat to children in regards to sex trafficking, and also as well as prostitution and drugs. I mean, like I said, I just couldn't imagine having a business placed directly across the street from these kids. I don't understand why we can't have something more positive for our community using that land. Why can't we have restaurants? I mean, there's so many other positive things that we could have in that land besides putting another industrial business there. And I don't know, it just makes me sick because growing up the land, the area was so peaceful. Now, when you drive through that area, it's just full of industrial businesses, and it's created a lot of eyesores, and it's really depressing driving through the area. So I strongly oppose the zoning changes, and thank you for your time.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Martasha James, followed by Hazel James.
Ms. James? Ms. James?
Yes.
Please go ahead. You have 3 minutes.
All right. My name is Martasha James, and I am the president of the Echo Heights South 6 Environmental Coalition. And I'm speaking and calling in support of the residents in Echo Heights who are fighting to prevent the zoning change from the agricultural to industrial in the neighborhood, and against potential warehousing facilities from being built in the residential community. I'm concerned about the health, the safety, and the general welfare of the residents in Echo Heights. A warehousing facility will have a negative impact on air quality, roadway safety and maintenance, and other nuisance affiliated with an industrial operator in a residential community. The zoning case is a symptom of larger issues that will continue to arise in this community and many others if the root of the problem is not addressed. And an adequate zoning and land use plan that concentrates Black and brown communities with industrial polluters. And I say that because whether you guys decide to deny it or approve it, where will the company go next? And we don't want it down the street or around the corner just because we asked for it not to be built across the street from WM Green. We have a lot of things that are at risk right now if you guys do allow this trucking company to come in. And we don't know what may come of it, just having that company come there. And if a community is voicing to you about something that they do not want with their neighborhood taking place in their neighborhood, and it has been stressed repeatedly, then I begin to question our representatives if you've even taken what we're even saying into consideration. And no to the rezoning, no to the new companies that can bring jobs, because I myself walk these streets and don't see anybody working at these locations or spoke to any people that are working at this location. And I strongly am against this zoning proposition and hope that my voice is heard. Thank you.
Thank you. Our last speaker is Hazel James, I think also by the phone.
Ms. James?
Good afternoon. This is Ms. James, and I'm calling to just let y'all know. I want to respond to three things that were said. One, by Mrs. Powell, who indicated that she's also a teacher. However, I'd like to ask Ms. Powell, as being a teacher of private schools, do any of them have a commercial trucking company in front of them? Two, the attorney who spoke for the Leon Group made the statement that WM Green was built or opened up in 1995. Not true. I have 9 siblings. 6 of them attended WM Green. 4 of my kids also attended WM Green, which was opened December the 7th of 1959. In 1966, WM Green at that point had 521 students who was attending it, and it has been open and thriving ever since. The other thing was, I noticed that Mr. Jarrett, Councilman Williams, made the statement how he supports and listens to his community, and he wants to also make the vision of what his community is asking for their future community. And we're just asking that our councilmen do the same for us. We are communities that's asking for not this to be brought in our community. And then the other thing was, the Leon Group said that there will be 52 truck stalls there. Now, let me just say this. Do they know what type of license that these truckers will have? One, you do have to have a Class A license to drive an 18-wheeler, first of all. However, do they know how many of these truckers actually have a hazmat endorsement on their driver's license? Do they know if any hazmat materials will be brought in? With these people having these endorsements, they're not just going to let them run dormant because they make more money driving hazmat vehicles. Hazmat vehicles transport explosive, flammable, poisonous, otherwise potential dangerous cargo. Now, with that being said, they don't know what's coming in and out. They have said on many occasions that they didn't know what the trucker companies would be hauling. However, they would be obtaining stalls, parking the trucks and the trailers. Ground transportation for 18-wheelers is the most crucial form of getting our food and beverages and things like that are by 18-wheeler drivers. All I'm just trying to say is that with a hazmat, which they do not know if their drivers will be at this time or any time hauling hazmat materials, are they going to check their license to see if they're a hazmat driver or if these truckers will be providing any hazmat materials? Let's just say that they do. And one of these vehicles happen to start leaking on the property, causing erosive materials and chemicals to start exposing from these vehicles, therefore going up into the air, traveling over to the school where our children will be attending. Again, I ask for y'all to, again, deny with prejudice. Right on the corner of Parker Henderson, Mr. Jose was killed by an 18-wheeler 6 years ago. And that's going up that street. So I'm just saying, if an older man could have been hit and killed, who's to say that our small children want? I'm not
Thank you,
taking
Hazel.
anything from our teachers, and if they don't.
Thank you, Hazel. So sorry to cut you off. Appreciate you.
You're
That's the last of our speakers. Councilmember Bivens.
Thank you. And I want to say thanks to all of the neighbors who showed up here this evening. When COVID first started, that was the first time residents of Echo Heights came to City Council. Bobby Edmonds was with those at that time. And this was an environmental issue then. I was remote, couldn't be here because of COVID, but I asked the people here to get together and create a real neighborhood association. And you did, not because I suggested it, but you did. You saw the need to unify. I also asked Bobby Edmonds, as an attorney, on camera, to help you all connect with TCEQ. John, you know I respect everything you do. You guys have done that, and I think you're going to be a model for the city. I'm going to tell you, back in the 1990s, I met a man named Luis Sepulveda, and I don't know if anybody knows that name, but Luis Sepulveda grew up in West Dallas, and every house on his street had yard ornaments, but not birds and things that you see decorating yards. These yards were decorated with old batteries, and they came from a smelter plant in West Dallas. When you saw Luis, you had no idea how young he was, but the lead from those batteries gave most people in West Dallas cancer. It became a super site. And so I am more than familiar with the problems involving environmental issues. I even went on to become a spokesperson for a corporation on environmental issues. I got my toxic release inventory training, so I feel your pain. What you need to know is right, when you talk about no testing to show some things, you know, I got nothing but love and respect for you. But there are no tests to show certain things because in communities of color, nobody ever saw the need or the respect to do the testing. Doesn't mean the issues were not there. I will tell you, Reby Carey's daughter, Faith, and I were talking 2 weeks ago, and she realized her home in Carver Heights, there was a city dump there. We didn't know that, but that's what happens in communities of color. People just dump. Now, I have a vision that one day, all of the companies you see there that are doing the truck traffic, doing the polluting, I think they're going to go away. Not because they want to be somewhere else, but because they would have torn our streets up so much. The former mayor of Lancaster, Marcus Knight, I stopped him at that door and told him, you should have asphalt in your trunk every time I see you because of the way you've torn up these streets. And so I would submit to you, this is more than just your time right now. And to the property owner, I understand your desires for legacy and who gets the property, but it is very important that we do no more harm. Now, I can't correct or change what's happened decades ago, but what I can tell you is there is a property owner who has property on Parker Henderson right now who applied or who fought a zoning change. Now, his is A5, meaning he could build housing. City staff had recommended against that, but my hope and my dream is if there is one person who wants to build homes in that area, I want to support that person. So we went along with him for zoning. I really think things are going to turn around. But until they do, you will not see me approving anything that adds more injury to the harm we already feel in this area. That you got to know this about me. Now, Ray, you and I, we've been fighting zoning battles since I rezoned Lake Arlington. And once again, we just don't see eye to eye. Ray knows I am never convinced about who I'm elected to represent. And who I'm elected to represent are people who live in a community. Sometimes you may not be 100% on one accord, and so I go with the majority. And I see this majority over here. What I would ask you to do is know that my office is open to you. You know, I have bronchial issues. A lot of children of color have asthma. And the TRI would tell you it's because of something I won't even say, but we know it's because of environmental justice. Earlier today, the Mobility Infrastructure Committee met. That's a committee our mayor has put me the chair over. And we're going to take on another environmental issue. I will be in touch with your president to let you know when that topic comes up. William, what's it called? EJ40? Somebody told me about that. And again, that's environmental justice. John, you may know what it is. I'll make sure you know about that. But I just want you to know, I took some random notes. And one thing that's important to me is I embrace open space concept. And so it may not make sense to some people, but I embrace anything that will enhance the quality of life. When it comes to the Prairie Dog Park, that park started in 1961. The city took it over in 1971, and it had 4,000 prairie dogs at that time in 1971. As development came in, the prairie dogs left. They moved them, but like you all say, they didn't move or care about the people. I care about the people, okay? So just know that I'm with you on this. My motion is to deny with prejudice. I would ask you all to get with William. William, raise your hand because that road needs to be fixed. The bridge was out for far too long. I want you to invite him to your next neighborhood meeting and he can have staff come and talk about the road conditions. All the road conditions. I don't like what has happened. And so just know that if you come to me with anything, I'm gonna always be on your side. And so you've got my motion. I need a second.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. And let me just add here, Mr. McCauley did bring up a good point. We have an open space designation on one of the pieces of that property, but no plans to purchase. So I'm gonna maybe second what Gina's doing here today, but also really encourage the city, including Parks and Recreation and other departments, to really look again at that area to make sure we're not prioritizing correctly that community and to provide additional open space. If we say it's needed, then we need to put our money where our mouth is. And I know there's a lot of competing priorities, but I think that that's very important here to help achieve some of the goals that the neighborhood is asking for. And then furthermore, maybe Gina, bring back to us what we think we can help with this landowner to be able to develop and or sell that property in a way that you think will work for the neighborhood. So let's work on that together through Ray, if that would be okay.
You guys should applaud what the mayor just said. That's good news for you. And you too, property owner.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. We can vote, council. And Elizabeth, there you go. Thank you. Motion carries.
Next item is ZC-22-091.
We only have one speaker, Lindsay Purpura, but we have no opposition. Hi, Lindsay, come on up. Sorry, it said call, so I was expecting to get on the phone.
My name is Lindsay Purpura. I'm a Fort Worth resident, and I'm representing KBP5, who is a local developer. And we are proposing a zoning change for the properties at 2716 and 2722 Wingate in the Linwood neighborhood. We're looking to rezone it from A5 to urban residential. Our process began in May, once we closed on the property, and we've been in contact with the Linwood Neighborhood Association numerous times since then. We proposed an original design and applied for a zoning change, but we received feedback from the neighborhood that they were opposed to the townhome design. So we went back to the drawing board and came back in June with a new design that took away the townhomes and turned them into a more localized with a shared drive in the middle instead of it being in one row. We have received no opposition to this new design, and we've actually received a lot of kind remarks based on the design that we have proposed from the neighborhood association. And so we just propose to rezone it to urban residential.
Thank you, Lindsay. I think Councilmember Nettles has got this case for Elizabeth.
Yes. So I spoke with Councilmember Beck, and so she wants the motion to continue to give opportunity to reach out to the office, and her staffer is here. If you can just raise your hand, reach out to him before the meeting is over with so that you guys can set up a meeting. But my motion is motion to continue for 30 days.
Motion and a second. Please vote, council. Motion carries.
Next item is ZC-22-099.
Jacob Petrie.
Good evening, Council and Mayor. Thank you for your time this evening. My name is Jake Petrie. I reside in Weatherford, Texas. I am the developer representing the owner-operator here for this proposed car wash at 5235 Brian Irving Road. So this is the proposed site. It's undeveloped land, has always been undeveloped. It's not that pretty. It sits right in front of a transfer station for Encore. What we're proposing to build here is a car wash like this, a very modern, very attractive car wash that will shield Brian Irving from that said substation. There are many challenges with the site that we had to overcome, and with the site entitlements, easements, and other encumbrances. The site is 1.7 acres, but the only usable is about 1.1. The owner has tried doing some retail shops, different centers, and he hasn't been able to do so because it just doesn't fit in the said property. The tunnel length is 125 feet. There'll be 30 vacuums, 3 queue lanes, and 21 stacking or capability between the pay station lines and the main entry point to the car wash facility. The zoning here is G, which after the new zoning rules or ordinance for car washes that you guys passed a couple months ago, it allows car washes by right in G, except for if it's in a proximity to multifamily or other residential uses. So that's why we are here today asking for a conditional use permit. We focus on the 3 main concerns here for the community: noise, access, and landscape. The building is a CMU block structure, which is great for dampening noise. There will be a 6-foot screening CMU block wall at the bottom of the page, as you can see on the south side. Also, between our property line and the multifamily property, there's a 36-foot wide access easement that's owned by Encore. And between the Encore-owned property and the multifamily property, there is a 20-foot plus green screen wall with trees and shrubs and other vegetation. The dryers and blowers are on the far side of the building, which we all know is the most loud part of the car wash. All that is 200 feet away from the multifamily line and away from or headed towards the commercial. The access is right in and right out only, so only northbound traffic can access, so anyone headed southbound will not be able to. The site has a deed restriction. In that 40-foot setback, there is meandering sidewalks, a very high requirement for landscaping, and that's it for that. And we have some waivers that we're asking for, and I'll be happy to answer any questions about them.
Thank you, Jacob. That's the last of our speakers. Dr. Williams.
Thank you again for presenting and for highlighting some of those concerns. I'd like to move to approve.
Floor, please vote.
Next item is ZC-22-100.
We have one speaker, Mary Nell Poole, but only if there's opposition, and there is none. Councilmember, who's handling this one for Elizabeth? You are, Leonard? Go ahead. Thank you, Leonard. Move to approve. Oh, I'm sorry. Huh? Did I mess up? I did. I'm sorry, y'all. That was 100. I apologize. Thank you, Leonard. Move. I've got a motion, a second. Bye, guys. Please vote. I just can't read anymore. Motion carries.
Next item is ZC-22-101.
Thank you. And we have one speaker, Mary Nell Poole, but only as opposition. Chris Nettles.
Motion to approve.
Motion and a second, please vote. Motion carries.
Next item is ZC-22-103.
Jose Juarez, but only if there's opposition. Councilmember Nettles, you have this one too.
Yes. So I spoke to Councilwoman Beck, and she wants to continue this for 30 days to give you opportunity to reach out to her office. But our district director is here. You can reach out to him. All right. Thank you.
Right here. Thank you. I've got a motion for continuance. Second, thank you. Please vote. Motion carries.
Next item is ZC-22-109.
Our first speaker is Brian Morris, followed by Matthew Bodsey.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. My name is Brian Morris. I reside in Richardson, Texas. I'm the civil engineer for the project. My company is called Foresight Group, and we're here on behalf of the owner, the Eagles View Church, and also the developer, which is Slate Land Development Company. The property that we're looking to rezone is at the northeast corner of Bailey Boswell and Centerboard Lane. It is directly between the Centerboard Lane and the Eagles View Church to the east. It is about 1.48 acres that we're looking to rezone. It's currently C multifamily, and we're looking to rezone it to E neighborhood commercial. The proposed use that we're looking to do is a 13,000 square foot building with retail and restaurant uses. Some of the uses that we're anticipating there are coffee shops, sandwich shops, pizzerias, nail salons, chiropractor offices, and other retail restaurant uses. We have met with the adjacent Twin Mills Farms HOA, Lana Stevens, back in late June. We received positive feedback from their group. We also reached out to the Lake Point Community HOA, which is to the west of Centerboard. We haven't had a chance to meet with them formally at their meeting. There was a scheduling conflict, but we did provide all the materials for them to review, and haven't received feedback from them since we've sent it, but we haven't received any comments against it as well. So we're here to answer any questions that you may have regarding the proposed zone change. And that's all I have.
Stone, I think Matthew's only if there's opposition, so I'll go to you next.
To approve. Thank you for coming tonight.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
Thank you, Leonard. Got a motion and a second. Please vote. Michael.
Next item is ZC-22-110.
This is one, I think we don't have any speakers on this one, but I think Councilmember Crane would like to recuse on this item.
Mayor, in abundance of caution, I need to recuse myself from voting in this case.
Thank you. No speakers, Council. So Councilmember Firestone.
Move to approve.
Motion and a second. Please vote. Motion carries.
Next item is ZC-22-111.
Councilmember Crane, we have one speaker, but only if there's opposition, and there is none.
I just want to get, Travis, I move to approve.
Motion, please vote, Council. Motion carries.
Next item is ZC-22-113.
Councilmember Blaylock, we have one speaker, Travis Clegg. Only if there's opposition. I'll turn to you first.
So
If the council will indulge, I would like to go ahead and pull Travis up for a moment to speak to the zoning case.
Sure, of course. Travis Clegg with Peloton Land Solutions. We're the engineering planning firm working on this project. We're excited to be here. So this is a long time coming. I know that in the past 20 years, I've worked on this project and looked at it for different developers, and nothing has stuck. Fortunately, this project went to an RFP roughly about 12 months ago, and our developer put together a plan and a program that the family, the royal family, and ultimately the Basswood 35 Foundation accepted, and so it's under contract with our development. Since then, we've been working with city staff and our council representation, both old and new, on this project. The city staff and the project has been so interesting that even the Real Estate Council of Fort Worth did a design competition on this project called Panther Den. And so, in which case, each group kind of puts together the best plan possible and does a financial plan and whatnot. So it's been an exciting plan for us to work through. We've had 4 HOA meetings with our surrounding neighbors. 3 have been in person, 1 by Zoom, and that was only because I was out of town on family vacation. But in all those cases, we gained support with those HOA groups. We have letters of support from the Summerfields HOA, letters of support from the Park Glen HOA, and the North Fourth Alliance. But we also have an opportunity to work with the city on this project. And with that is roughly a 75-acre piece, kind of in the middle of the development. And we're looking forward to doing some sort of a park, soccer fields, and what have you. But we haven't really planned that out yet. But whatever we do will be in conjunction with the development that we are doing with our developers. And we're looking forward to having those conversations with council, with the Parks Department, with our residents who live next door to it, to provide kind of a regional approach to some amenities in the area that's greatly needed. So we're seeking your approval tonight so we can continue working on the site plan and to move this exciting development to the next stages. So with that, I'll answer any questions or comments you may have.
Thanks, Travis. Alan?
So I really appreciate all the effort you've made reaching out to the community to speak to this development here. I know there's been a lot of time and energy expended by a lot of people with Peloton, my predecessor, me now, and more. I'll yield to my fellow council members if there's any questions. Otherwise, I'll motion to approve.
Second.
Yes, ma'am. Go ahead, Gina.
Thought Curry was here to see us tonight. And I saw him from a distance, but I really couldn't tell because got all this hair and stuff. No suit, no nothing. But now I know why he came. So maybe we can get him to come back just to see us. Good to see you too.
Next item is ZC-22-115.
Gina, we have one speaker on this one. It's Bob Willoughby. Okay. Gina, go ahead. Motion and a second. Please vote, council. Motion carries.
Next item is MNC 22-0578.
On this, Michael?
I have to read this per the attorneys, so I know everybody, it's getting late, but bear with me. So Senate Bill 18, that became effective on, I just have to read. I move that the Fort Worth City Council adopt a resolution authorizing use of the power of eminent domain to acquire 4.269 acres in permanent water facility easement and 1.0291 acres in temporary construction easement owned by Michael Nazarian, Rachel Nazarian, and Rebecca Nazarian, co-executors of the estate and Manicure Nazarian located at 12501 Camp Bowie West Boulevard in the Jonathan Burleson Survey Abstract 78, Tarrant County, Texas. The property is needed for the West Side 3 Water Transmission Main Project, a public use that will provide water for the West Side Water Treatment Plant, Old Weatherford Road, to the south of Interstate 20, just west of Markham Ranch Road. The land rights and the subject property are needed for the continuation of waterline improvements. The property interests to be acquired are described by meets and bounds and depicted by survey exhibits attached to this mayor and council communication.
Thank you, Michael. Got a motion? Second. Thank you. Please vote. Motion carries.
Next item is MNC 22-0581.
We have two speakers on this one, Bob Willoughby, followed by Thomas Tolan-Kasi.
You got one speaker. Thomas went to have dinner. Okay. This is kind of weird here. You know, it says that a grant for $2.5 million for 20 more pro officers. It says if awarded, as if police are something like an option. I mean, what are you doing with our tax money? We shouldn't need a grant to do this. And here's the thing that's killer. You're borrowing $2.5 million from officers, but yet you voted to spend over $500,000 to keep a good, cheap police from coming back, Fitzgerald. And I don't understand that. $500 to keep an officer out, that's good, but you want $250 million to bring in 20 more patrol officers. That does not make sense to me at all. That really does not. Okay, that's what I just said, so, okay. Another thing is, oh yeah, here we go. No, that was the first thing. But anyway, that's just doesn't make sense. I thought I had more written there. I did get another note from someone else that mentioned to you, though. Somewhere along the way, there was some words saying that Chief Fitzgerald was not a police officer, and I got the paperwork to prove that he was.
No, we're not going to Chief Fitzgerald,
Okay,
discuss
but he
item.
was. Okay, I mentioned it for him. They wanted me to mention that in there, so I did. But to pass this is totally wrong right now. We should have the money, you should have the funds, we should have the police, and you shouldn't be wasting our money because you're not putting it right. You're not using our money right if you have to do this. And that's the most craziest thing, if awarded. I feel, that's just great. If it's not awarded, we don't get 20 more patrol officers. And we do need patrol officers because that's for the traffic, I think. And the traffic is out of control out there. People drive like maniacs out there. And so we do need them, but we need probably a lot more. But we should have the money, and you're not managing the money right, you know. Mr. Cook, I guess this falls on your watch. You're the city manager, you know. So I don't know. That just doesn't make sense. And the killer is to spend $500,000 to keep a chief and police coming back.
No,
And
no,
then we
no,
gotta
we're not
answer
doing
why.
that. We're just going to focus.
Why you're doing it with our tax dollars? It's our tax dollars.
Thank you, Bob. Nice to
All right,
see
come on.
you.
Second.
Move to approve.
Okay.
Thank you. In a second, please vote. Motion carries.
Mayor, that concludes all of the items.
Thank you, council. Meeting adjourned.
$900. In 2017, the market value of this property was $64,094. The 2022 market value of the property is $120,000.